subscribe, like the video, and, if possible, join Patreon. But if you don't have much money, you can support the channel by watching the novels on euroaudiobooks.com. Remember that you can participate in the polls so that your favorite novel gets published for free.
Kuramochi beat up the principal's son to stand up for his friends. Kuramochi Yoichi will now be player of Narita Industrial. But because of the violent incident, Narita Industrial immediately decided to give up the trouble that is Kuramochi. Not only Narita, but several other high schools also chose to refuse Kuramochi's admission for this reason. Kuramochi, who loves baseball so much, almost ruined his baseball career. Strictly speaking, Narita Industrial is not wrong about this matter. Although Kuramochi has a strong personality, he is not the kind of person who does not distinguish between right and wrong. He also knew that it was not Narita's fault, so there was no resentment against Narita in his heart. He only blamed himself for being a troublemaker. He was tricked by his so-called brother. Now that he's going to play against Narita, Kuramochi's mood is inevitably conflicted. For the 14-year-old Kuramochi, Narita has always been his dream. Now that he has to compete with his dream team, Kuramochi has many twists and turns in his heart. Beside his pillow, there's a brand new shortstop glove. This glove is already a bit worn out, but Kuramochi has been cherishing it. This was the gift he received at the most disappointing time in his life, although he did not know who sent the gift. Like Sidhu, this glove has become Kuramochi's spiritual sustenance. After a long silence, Sawamura's voice suddenly came from the upper bunk. If Narita and Sidhu invited you at the same time, where would you choose to go? Kuramochi was startled. To be honest, he never thought about this question. Probably, I'll still go to Narita. If it wasn't for not being able to play baseball in his hometown, he would be double whammed by his friend's betrayal. Kuramochi really may not have the determination to come to Tokyo to play. Then let's prove it tomorrow. That now you are way better than you would be in Narita. Sawamura's voice was a little distant. If you want to make yourself not regret it, then prove it to yourself. You who entered the Sidhu are definitely no worse than in Narita, or even stronger. Prove it to myself. Even if it is the arrangement of fate, I will never regret choosing Sidhu. Kuramochi laughed suddenly, although he was comforted by Sawamura, which made him a little uncomfortable. However, the knot that had plagued him for a while was resolved. You little dash, z. Before Kuramochi could finish speaking, Sawamura's slight snoring could be heard from the upper bunk. Apparently, he fell asleep. Kuramochi, who had opened his mouth to teach Sawamura a lesson, suddenly closed his mouth and went back to his bed. Thanks. The sound was so soft that it was almost inaudible. On the top bunk, Sawamura opened his eyes. The next day, the players from Sita High School got ready early in the morning, got on the bus, and headed to the competition venue. They will be there, competing with Narita Industrial for Kanto's semifinals. 71. Chapter 71. They still came. When the bus from Sita High School arrived at the stadium, two buses arrived outside the stadium almost at the same time as them. As soon as the players of the Sidhu got out of the car, more than a dozen media reporters who were waiting in full force rushed over with long guns and short cannons. Cameras, on the other hand, the other two buses seemed relatively deserted. Not to mention reporters around, not even half of the fans who greeted him. This treatment, the difference is really big. Isn't Sidhu unable to enter Koshien for many years? No way, this year. There are freshmen who are like the eye of the storm. Such a scene almost made the noses of Narita Industrial players crooked. With sarcastic words on his lips, they secretly made up their mind that he would show Sidhu a good time at the game no matter what. Don't think you can go to heaven if you have a great first-year pitcher. High school baseball, it's not that simple. Hello. Just when everyone was angry, a very polite voice suddenly came from behind. The players of Narita looked back and saw that she was a beautiful lady. Tall and beautiful. The most outstanding thing is the beautiful long hair in a ponytail, blowing in the wind with a natural atmosphere. The beauty had a microphone in her hand and a camera strapped on her shoulder. This looks like a beautiful reporter. In an instant, the players forgot all the unhappiness just now, and they rushed forward one by one to face the beauty with a smile. There is still a beautiful woman with good insight, Not all of them are like flies around those guys in Sea-Doo. Reporter-san, do you have any questions? The tall Ito smiled foolishly. With his hand, he subconsciously touched the back of his head, interpreting his silly personality to the extreme. He saw the beautiful reporter nod politely and said, "Please, can you move away a little bit? I want to take a long-range photo of the Seco High School team." "Thank you. What was that?" "A slap in the face, this is." The players of Narita Industrial left one by one, making way for the beauty reporter. A good man does not fight with a woman. This is a gentleman's demeanor, and Narita players are not some gangsters. They stared at Seco with all their resentful eyes. It's just a pity that the guys from Seco High School ignored them. Coach Kataoka has always ordered that players are not allowed to accept any interviews without permission. Several staff members blocked the reporters and said, "I'm sorry, no comment. We will talk about everything after the game is over." This is also what Seco High School has always done, and they never say much before the game, avoiding the encirclement and suppression of those reporters. The players of Seco High School came to the locker room smoothly. At the same time, a team also got off the other bus. "Mima, what's wrong?" The teammate behind him asked Mima Soichiro strangely. From the moment he got off the bus, Mima's eyes never left the bus opposite. Could it be that there was someone he knew on the opposite bus? Looking around, the player recognized the opposing team almost at a glance. The nation's powerhouse, Seco High School. Although Seco High School has not entered Koshien in recent years, its momentum has weakened a little. But the giants in the nation are the giants. There are very few baseball players in the country who don't know Seco. This is the fame of the country's top powerhouse. Does Mima also have friends in Seco? His teammate thought strangely. Mima did not answer, and after seeing the Seco people leaving, he also turned and left. That person is Sawamura. Mima is one of the famous upcoming talents in the nation, but he does not belong to the softball league, but from the hardball league. At the same time, he is also a year older than Sawamura. Not all players who were a year older than Sawamura knew the details of the Demon King, not to mention the hardball league, which itself is not affiliated with the softball league. Even in the softball league, those players who are a year older than Sawamura do not necessarily continue to pay attention to the national competition after losing the game. If they hadn't continued to pay attention to the game, naturally, they wouldn't have known about the achievements Sawamura created. If you don't know about the miracles created by Sawamura and Akagi Middle School, naturally, you won't try to find a video of the game to study. If you haven't studied Sawamura's pitching, you naturally don't know Sawamura's horror. Like Kuramochi's situation, there are many people here who have more or less heard of Sawamura's name. But it is not necessarily true to know Sawamura. Just like we know that Yao Ming achieved the best result for a foreigner in the NBA, but in fact, what kind of sensation did everyone have about Yao Ming's achievements in the NBA is not necessarily known. In fact, it is not really a big deal for people in the NBA. Knowing Yao Ming's name is not bad. If you say a little more, you will know that he plays basketball. The bombardment of the TV media in the past 2 years has indeed given Sawamura a certain reputation among baseball fans. No matter how famous he is also a child who has not entered high school and has not entered a career. How far can he go in the future? No one can tell. Therefore, everyone knows that it is difficult to understand Sawamura in detail if they're not a true die-hard fans like the fan clubs. But these ignorant people definitely do not include the famous upcoming talents. No matter how nonchalant they were normally, they were all happy to be selected by the baseball fans as the top player in the country at the same time. This is like the top 10 outstanding young people in the country. Others may not be like that, but they must be very happy. It is precisely because they recognize their own identity that they care more about this Demon King who can suppress them. As one of the famous upcoming players, Mima also had an in-depth understanding and research on Sawamura. It's just because they belong to different leagues in middle school, they didn't have the chance to fight. I didn't expect that the first meeting would be like this. The back of Mima looks high-spirited. Keep on winning. Sooner or later we will fight at the Kanto tournament. When the time comes, let me see. What is the ability of you, the Demon King who is better than us? After the dressing was over, the players opened the door and walked into the stadium. Sawamura, Demon King, Demon King. In the stands, the two groups of people began to tear their throats and shout. Sawamura raised his head. His eyes were a bit wet. They still came. 72. Chapter 72. Who? The second round of the Kanto tournament, West Tokyo Seido High Schools against Chiba Prefecture Narita Industrial High School, officially begins. Please take care of me. Please take care of me. When the two sides saluted, Seido players could clearly feel the fighting spirit and resentment of Narita players. Sawamura didn't remember what kind of grievances between Seido High School and Narita Industrial High School, and asked Kuramochi beside him strangely, "What's wrong with them?" There is no love for no reason in the world, and naturally, there is no hate for no reason. There must be a reason why the Narita players are unhappy with Seido's players. Sawamura thinks that even if he doesn't know, his seniors must know. Unexpectedly, Kuramochi ignored his question at all, but questioned Sawamura very resentfully. "Are all those guys here to support you?" Looking in the direction of Kuramochi's finger, you could just see the Brotherhood of the Red Heart and the Demon King's Guard. Compared to his matches in middle school, the size of the attendees has shrunk by 2 or 3 points. There are only 600 or 700 people from the Brotherhood of Red Hearts. The Demon King's Imperial Guard is no more than 2,000 people. But considering that it is only during the Kanto tournament, it is not a traditional holiday. It's not easy to have so many people here. Especially the members of the Brotherhood of Red Heart's arrival made Sawamura have complicated feelings. If it was normal, when he heard Kuramochi's unkind tone, Sawamura might have taken into account his mood and changed the subject gently. But today, Sawamura didn't want to run away no matter what. "Yeah, they're all here to support the humble me." Hearing Sawamura's words, Kuramochi's eyes burst out with anger, wanting to burn Sawamura to ashes. "So you're very cool, huh? You're such a big star, huh?" His fists creaked, and Kuramochi stared at Sawamura with a very bad look. He was very angry, or more like he was jealous, and he wanted to vent his anger to Sawamura. Don't anyone say that he has to be careful. Kuramochi never thought of himself as a person of great caution. "I'm really envious." Next to him, Kaminato Ryosuke followed suit. "Ichiyun said Sawamura fiercely. Hey, how much did you pay for so many fans? Give all the details." Yuki Tetsuya is as cold as ever. "It's over. The seniors are going crazy." Sawamura hurriedly looked at Chris for help. "I also feel very bad." Seeing Chris spread his hands, Sawamura looked at heaven helplessly. What a cruel world. Haha, you brought this upon yourself," Miyuki said with a gloating face on the side. Sawamura couldn't help but roll his eyes at him. "You are a substitute, so don't talk nonsense." "Miyuki, Senpai Dano, now your opponent is not me. Let's talk about winning the game first." Seeing that the surrounding seniors were all red-eyed, Sawamura quickly diverted the conflict. These words are still very effective. At this time, all the players in Seido are focusing on their opponents. The same is true for the players from Narita, who are staring fiercely at these guys in Seido. In their opinion, Seido's guys are really too much. They are about to have an official match with them. Not to mention taking the time to get familiar with the stadium, they even started chatting in the rest area on their own. Do they think we are crazy or stupid? The players of Narita have no answer to this question now, so they can only wait until the competition time to know. Game start. Narita takes the lead. In this game, the starting battery of Seido High School was changed. The starting pitcher was Tampa, and the catcher was Chris. Such an arrangement is very obvious and is beyond the expectations of Narita Industries. Sawamura, who pitched sharply, didn't start, that's all. After all, Sawamura is only a first-year pitcher, and considering his physical fitness, he can't take the game alone. At this time, it is undoubtedly a very safe choice to send the more experienced Tampa. But at this time, who the hell is Chris who they never heard of? Could it be that Chris is a better catcher than Miyuki? Normally, it takes at least 2 years to train a catcher. A catcher like Miyuki, who can shine as a catcher in the first year, is 1 in 100 or even 1 in 1,000. No matter how talented Seido High School players are, it will never be. It is impossible to have more than 2 catchers of this strength. Coach Chazawa stared at the dugout of Seido High School, his eyes became fierce. Could it be that in the eyes of Seto High School, Narita can only be used as an opponent for you to hone your substitutes? Then you're more than welcome. Hit them hard. Thinking of this, Coach Chazawa's eyes immediately turned cold, and he decisively issued instructions to his players. The players of Narita are just as eager to show off now as they get the permission. They have been impatient to push Seto into the abyss. Strike, strike, batter out, snap, out, snap, out. 3 outs, offense and defense exchange. The plans are very good, but the reality is extremely harsh. The players of Narita went to the strike zone with confidence one by one, and then came back one by one, disheartened. The first batter was directly struck out by Tampa with a high drop curve. You have to say that although Tampa's pitching ability has always been questioned, his high drop curveball is still very powerful. It's not easy for a batter to hit this kind of ball. Then the second batter and the third batter, because they were too wary of that kind of curveball, their swing was unstable and were dealt with again and again. The second ball hit the infield rebound and was directly picked up by the second base Kaminato Ryosuke. Then the third, a fly ball in left field. Sawamura had been waiting for the baseball drop. Another out. Narita's batter was clearly grasped by the catcher and was led away by the nose. Where did that guy come from? Chazawa, the coach of Narita, looked at the handsome Chris in shock. Seeing the results, it is not difficult for him to see the strength of Chris from the performance of Chris just now. This is a very, very high-quality catcher with experience and IQ. For Tampa, they are not ignorant. In any case, Tampa is still the ace of Seto High School, and they have a lot of information. It is very easy to study Tampa. To say that Tampa can be conquered in the first inning, the coach of Narita was not very sure. But he never thought that his own players would be eliminated so easily by Tampa. It was already clear that it wasn't just Tampa's problem. The real problem is still with the catcher. Where did this catcher named Chris come from? It is said that in a famous school like Seto High School, there are players like Chris, and he should not have heard of it. 73. Chapter 73. A set of two nerds, Ito, the opponent's pitcher, usually gives the impression of being stupid. But he is actually a very good fastball pitcher, and his control of the ball is not stable, which makes it difficult to guess the path of the ball. Because the ball is fast, the ball is powerful, and it is not an easy pitch. Once you get to the strike zone, I suggest you tangle with him for a while. Maybe there will be an unexpected opportunity. Before Kuramochi went to the strike zone, Miyuki gave him some advice. Hi-ha, you can't play, so you come to me to find your sense of existence. Miyuki looked at Kuramochi in astonishment and finally smiled bitterly. Although he doesn't mind competing with Chris for the position of the main catcher. But seeing someone else standing in the position of Seto High School's catcher, his feeling was still very conflicting. Everyone has an obsession that cannot be understood by others. Miyuki Kinzuya's obsession is being the catcher, and he is absolutely unwilling to give that position to anyone. Even if that person is the senior Chris he respects, it is still a no. During Seto's match, sitting in the dugout to watch the game, this feeling made Miyuki very uncomfortable and even at a loss. This is also the reason why it is very rare for him to take the initiative to give Kuramochi advice. This guy is strangely perceptive. Miyuki glanced at Kuramochi in surprise. He doesn't know if it's because of the skills he learned from fighting in the streets since he was a child. Kuramochi has a unique talent for observing details and understanding the enemy's next move. If such talent could be incorporated into his baseball skills, Kuramochi would certainly be a tough batter for his opponents. Miyuki felt this faintly, but he didn't tell Kuramochi. With his own insight and practice intensity, if it was easy to incorporate these things into his own baseball skills, he would have done it long ago. Since it has not been done, it means that it is not so easy. This also needs to be polished by himself. Maybe this guy will become a powerful player who makes the enemy extremely at a loss in the future. Miyuki looked at Kuramochi, lost in thought. What did I say it? Chris Senpai is doing so well. Your main catcher position is really in jeopardy. Instead of worrying about my batting, it's better to worry about yourself. Although your catching skills are not worse than Chris Senpai's, Chris Senpai also has his own skills. Even if there is no one on the base, Chris Senpai can get consistent hits. There is a huge difference between you two, Kuramochi Yoichi said. I don't know if he said this to remind Miyuki, or if he wanted to see Miyuki's angry face. All in all, very true. Come on. Miyuki didn't say anything more and watched Kuramochi get into the field to strike. In the second half of the first inning, Seco attacked. The first in line is the first batter that will not change for years, Kuramochi Yoichi. Narita Industrial. Even after a night of psychological counseling, when he saw his opponent, Kuramochi's mind still had the scene from his middle school days. At that time, if he hadn't gotten into trouble, he might have already been a player of Narita Industrial. If he really joins Narita Industrial, what kind of life will he lead? Kuramochi can't think of it. Although there are all kinds of unwillingness in my heart if I were to do it all over again, I would resolutely choose to come to Seco. It was here that I completed the most important growth in my life. Let the past pass. Now, I am the first batter at Seco High School, Kuramochi Yoichi. Bring it on. The moment he stood in the strike zone and saw the pitcher, Kuramochi's heart no longer had any ripples. He just stared straight at the opponent, waiting for the opponent to throw the ball. The catcher of Narita is called Sanjo. Tall and chubby, he looks like an honest young man and gives off a very reliable feeling. Don't look down on him because of his look. Sanjo is the kind of very stable person. The pitcher of Narita Industrial is named Fuji Ito. These two are honest and harmless, goofy-looking duo. But the combination of these two people is very terrifying. If it weren't for them, Narita Industrial would not be able to enter the Kano tournament from Chiba Prefecture. It seems that Sanjo, who is honest and harmless, actually has good academic performance and a bright mind. He is a good hand in collecting and sorting out information. If his partner was replaced by a pitcher with a relatively high level of ball control, he might have already made a name for himself. But unfortunately, his partner is not the ball-handling type. Even to a certain extent, the meaning of pitch calling the ball has been disintegrated. When the ball is allocated by the catcher, and you can't throw it at all, then the allocation of the ball will lose most of the meaning. Note that most of the meaning is not all. The catcher can guide the pitcher, etc. Even if you study the other party's data, it may not be useful. But Sanjo still earnestly, carefully studied all the batters in Seco High School. Kuramochi, the unstoppable first batter of Seco High School. The speed is excellent, and once you get him on base, it's bound to evolve into an extremely tricky situation. However, Kuramochi is not a very powerful batter. It's not very difficult to get outs from him. With an idea in mind, Sanjo decisively gave Ito a sign. Although he made the sign, Sanjo didn't know if the ball would follow the trajectory he set. But even if he didn't know, he still wanted to do it. Who made him want to be the catcher on the team? Come on, use your speed and power to force the first out. Oh, there was a low growl from the pitcher mound, and Ito threw his first pitch. Whoosh! The small white ball, like laser light, flew towards the catcher's glove. On the strike zone, Kuramochi's expression suddenly turned ugly. Although he has seen Ito's pitching in the video, actually standing in the strike zone and watching it, there will still be a different feeling. The ball is so fast, and not only fast, but wild. Yes, it's wild. This ball is like a rampaging little beast, making it hard to swing against. Snap! Ball! The ball was good, and Kuramochi was taken aback, but unfortunately, it didn't go to the strike zone. Nice pitch. Sanjo, with a simple face, with an expression on his face, as if they were going to pitch there from the start, passed the ball back to Ito and glanced at Kuramochi calmly. For the ball just now, Kuramochi didn't want to swing at all. Did you see something? Or did you not plan to swing the bat in the first place? These two things are unknown. What a shame. It would have been nice to have the ball in the strike zone, so he could play with the ball more flexibly. Now that there is a ball, it is obviously not appropriate to continue throwing balls. Need to get a strike first. Thinking about it, Sanjo gave Ito a sign for the second time. Snap, strike, ball, ping, foul. Ito and Sanjo, who had thought the battle would end soon, were inexplicably entangled with Kuramochi. 74. Chapter 74. Cheetah-sama. Ping. Foul. When Kuramochi hit the ball out of bounds again, Sanjo's brows furrowed subconsciously. This guy is much more difficult than I imagined. When I was collecting data before, I never saw that Kuramochi had such a strong insight. He can easily distinguish between strikes and balls pitched by Ito in 145 kilometers A/in. Mainly because Ito's ball control is not good, the strikes and the balls are not particularly difficult to distinguish. Another thing is that Kuramochi's insight is indeed terrifying. In the original manga, he also had insight into the speed of Narumiya's ball as high as 148 kilometers. Ball or strike. 2 strikes, 3 balls, full count. So far, Kuramochi has been entangled with them for 7 pitches. Is this how you want to do it? The battery were prim in their mind, and they originally planned to state a deal with the batter using the normal straight, but they had to take out their weapons in advance. Go for it, a low slider. With your ball speed and power, as long as you hit the strike zone, no one can hit the ball. On the pitcher's mound, Ito smiled stupidly. This silly smile was exactly the same as the beautiful reporter he had seen before. That's how it is. That's how it is. Here, with my best ball, I will defeat everyone. There is nothing you can't do, Ito. Trust yourself. Whoosh. The pitch like a thunderstorm passed over the top of the plate with strong pressure. On the strike zone, Kuramochi bit his lip and finally controlled his urge to swing. Snap. Ball. Walk to base. This result was too embarrassing. The catcher, Sanjo. The pitcher, Ito. Both of them were embarrassed. If that ball hit the strike zone, it would be really good. But if you can't hit the strike zone, everything is useless. The catcher, Sanjo, looked at Kuramochi, who was on first base, and complained in his mind. After Kuramochi went to the base, the threat level increased 100-fold. Of course, this is only one aspect. The most important thing is that Seida's batter was completely unaffected by Ito's pitching momentum. When most people see Ito's winning shot, they don't think much about it at all and just swing the bat. But when Kuramochi saw that kind of ball for the first time, he even held back his bat. If Seida were all batters of this level, then it would be very difficult for them to fight in the next game. No outs, runner at first base. Good eyes, Kuramochi. Nice job. Seidu's rest area. Miyuki pushed up his glasses and said to himself, this guy really has good insight. If he has patience, he can be very powerful. Have you gained experience by fighting? Sawamura looked at Kuramochi with a bitter look on his face. Suddenly, he felt a malicious look at him from the first base. I can't hear you. Sawamura's eyes widened in disbelief. Cheetah-sama, you are Cheetah-sama of Seidu. From today, you are my idol. Sawamura stood up shamelessly and cheered Kuramochi. It's too shameless, isn't it? Miyuki looked disgusted. Does Kuramochi's hit just now have anything to do with his speed? Sawamura immediately glared back fiercely. He also knew it was naive to do so, but he couldn't help it. Turning around, Sawamura gave Kuramochi a thumbs up, indicating that he did a great job. Perfect. At this time, Kuramochi's face looked a little better. Second batter, second baseman, Kaminado-kun. While Sawamura was playing around, Kaminado Ryosuke went to the strike zone. Seeing Ryosuke, Sanjo felt like his brain was about to crack. When collecting information on Seidu before, Kaminado Ryosuke was his most troublesome batter. If the game hadn't just started, he would have wanted to walk Kaminado Ryosuke directly. Ito himself is not stable with the ball. Once the 4 balls are thrown, the ball control becomes even more problematic. At this time, Kuramochi had already chosen the walk. If Kaminado Ryosuke also chose the 4 ball, the consequences would be unimaginable. Taking another look at Ryosuke Kaminado, Ito saw that the other party was short in stature, and according to the data collected, he was not a powerful batter either. In this case, even if it is some easy balls, he may not hit it long. And if he throws a sweet ball near the center, it is not easy to hit out of bounds. With a determined heart, Sanjo gave his sign to Ito a straight ball to the center. Ito's ball control is also unstable, and he may not be able to throw the ball in the center, secretly comforting himself. Sanjo put out his gloves, ready to catch the ball. On the pitcher's mound, Ito smirked, and then his eyes became crazy. This ball, it doesn't matter if it is sweeter. The most important thing is to throw all the power you can into the ball. Be faster and fiercer. Whoosh! As if the strength of his whole body was condensed on the fingers of his pitching hand, Ito pitched the ball. The white ball, like a falling meteorite, flew above the home plate with great momentum. On the strike zone, Kaminato Ryosuke showed a devilish smile on his face. Kuramochi chose the 4 balls. At this time, to adjust the pitcher's mentality, the first ball should be a strike with a more comfortable position. Do you think I can't hit out? I'm sorry. Although my figure is still developing, my strength is not bad. Actually, it's no longer developing. Ping! The white ball was hit, and the corner of Kaminato Ryosuke's mouth had a cold smile. Throwing such a sweet ball out against him is really courting death. Sanjo in the catcher's position looked very embarrassed. How could the ball path be so bad this time? Pitch anywhere but the center, and you don't pitch anywhere but the center. After the ball was hit, it landed on the side of first base and flew out, forming a long hit. Behind first base is a defensive gap. Ryosuke went to first base. Kuramochi advanced to second base and ran to third base without stopping. Past third base. After the outfielder stops the ball, he prepares to pass third base. But there was still time, and Kuramochi was already approaching third base. Hateful. The outfielder had no choice but to pass second base first, preventing Ryosuke Kaminato from crossing first base and hitting second base. Kuramochi glanced at the opponent's outfielder out of the corner of his eyes. His body froze for a moment, and without any hesitation in his heart, he directly crossed third base and headed straight for home plate. Pass home plate. Sanjo, who had been paying attention to Kuramochi, shouted with a shocked expression. What? When the outfielder heard it, he was stunned for a moment before seeing Kuramochi running to home plate. Are you kidding me? He was shocked at the moment, thinking that Kuramochi was being greedy. Since you won't be shut out, then I will fulfill your wish. Whoosh! Past the home plate. Snap! The baseball drilled into Sanjo's glove. Almost at the same time, Kuramochi also stepped on the base of the home plate with 1 foot. So fast, the speed of a cheetah. From first base, over second base, third base, back to home plate. Before Narita's players could react, Kuramochi had returned to home plate and helped Seto score the first point. Total score 0-1. 75. Chapter 75. Seto's attack. When Kuramochi returned to the dugout, he saw Sawamura's flattering smile. Kuramochi-senpai, this was awesome. Really, a cheetah can't run faster than you. You're the Earth's, no, the solar system's, no, you should be the best shortstop in the entire galaxy. Kuramochi gave Sawamura a flying kick without hesitation. Sawamura felt very wronged. He said such disgusting words against his will. Why should he be hit? Why? Miyuki looked at him curiously. Kuramochi really did a good job. Although Sawamura's words were a bit exaggerated, they didn't touch Kuramochi's sensitive nerve, right? It's okay, it's just that this guy is irritating. Kuramochi couldn't say why. He just wanted to hit him. Sawamura returned to normal with a sad face. If this is unavoidable, then he decides to stay away from Kuramochi in the future. Do I have to find Manager Oda and change the dormitory? While Sawamura was dejected, Kuramochi's effort caused bursts of amazement from the stands. Too fast, as expected of the starter of Seto High School. First point, in the rest area, these discussions reached Sawamura's ears, and he couldn't help but pout. It's just a mistake by the outfielder of Narita. If it was a trap, it's not a miracle, it's an out. What are you muttering, boy? Sawamura said in a really low voice, but Kuramochi could still hear him. He leaned over beside Sawamura threateningly, staring at Sawamura with very unkind eyes, and asked. No, nothing. Sawamura smiled. If he wasn't playing in a match, he would have run away. Beside him, Miyuki helplessly spread his hands. I don't care about you. On the other side, in the dugout of Narita Industrial, Coach Chazawa looked at Kuramochi, who had returned to the rest area, and Kuramochi's every move kept popping up in his mind. Good. Superb insight, cool judgment, and decisive action in the base run just now. Everything Kuramochi showed was amazing. If there is such a first-class player in our team, the attack level will probably be much richer. Chazawa secretly envied, but he knew that Kuramochi almost became his student. No out, runner at first base. Seto High School had the second half first inning. and unexpectedly scored 1 point first. As far as the opening is concerned, it is the perfect opening mode for Seedoo. The third batter, center Isashiki, please take care of me. At this time, it was the third batter of Seedoo's lineup. Isashiki Jun, come on bastard. Isashiki stepped onto the strike zone with his standard growl in his mouth. Come on, Spitz. It's your time to play Spitz. Come on, Spitz. In the strike zone, Isashiki's face became more and more ugly. He doesn't know when it started, but the nickname of Spitz spread out. He feels pitiful. Although he doesn't hate dogs, he has no interest in associating his name with dogs. I'm out of Spitz. With a roar, Isashiki struck out. Ping. The white ball was hit and rolled towards the area guarded by the second baseman. At first base, Kaminato Ryosuke saw the opportunity. He started before the baseball hit the ground and went to second base. And Isashiki Jun was solved and out. 1 out, runner at second base. Ryosuke's face had a standard devilish smile. Nice assist. Dump. The bat was tapped on his head, and Isashiki's face was full of annoyance. It's better to bark. You won't be able to show your frustration if you don't bark. Show your Spitz character. At this time, the words in the stands, like adding fuel to the fire, completely ignited Isashiki. I'm not. Stop making trouble, Jun. Just when Isashiki was about to fight with the audience, suddenly a voice came from behind him. 1 out, the runner at second base. Sita High School's fourth bat, the captain, Yuki Tetsuya, stood in the strike zone. Hit out. You can do it. Come on, fourth batter. Hit a homer. Come one. In the stands, the fans who supported Seedoo immediately boiled over. When there is someone at the second base, and it is the turn of Tetsu, under such a situation, Seedoo may have a hard time not scoring. Ball. With 3 balls in a row, it seemed that Narita's battery was deliberately trying to avoid the fight. The first base bag is still empty now, and to be honest, it doesn't matter if the walk is completed. It's just that it's not good to do this in the first round. After the 3 balls, just when everyone thought that Narita's battery was about to make a walk, a ball suddenly flew into the strike zone. On the strike zone, Tetsuya has never relaxed his observation of any ball. Seeing this pitch, the response is also very calm. Ping. With a thunderous swing, the ball was swept away. The catcher, Sanjo, was about to cry. When it's time to aim, you can't aim at the strike zone. Now I'll let him throw a ball, and he'll give me a strike instead. This is going to kill me. With a sigh, Sanjo watched helplessly as the ball crossed the defense. The captain was successful, and at the same time, Ryosuke also went to third base. 1 out, runner at first and third base. Fifth outfielder, Sawamura Kun. At this moment, Sawamura stood in the strike zone. Has Sawamura been promoted to the 5th rank? The last game, he was the 7th. Is it a big promotion? In the last game, 3 hits included a home run. Even Coach Kataoka couldn't ignore such a performance. Speaking of which, in the last game, I felt that the original 5th bat didn't contribute much at all. The first-year unofficial ace plus 5th batter. It's hard to say whether there is no one before or no one in high school before, but as far as Seedoo is concerned, this is definitely the first time. Every time I see him, I feel like he's going to do something big. In the stands, there were countless voices and discussions. However, there are not many people who think that Sawamura is not qualified enough to stand in the 5th position of Seedoo. In the last game, Sawamura's performance in attack was so dazzling that it was completely impossible to ignore. The Brotherhood of Red Heart and the Demon King's Guard, when they saw Sawamura in the box, went crazy and cheered Sawamura on. Everyone was waiting to see what Sawamura would do in the strike zone. In the box, Sawamura looked unwilling. He had already received orders from Kataoka. Bunt and forced to score. It's better to break 1 finger than to hurt 10 fingers. This is Seedoo's true attacking style. The more dominant you are, the less you have to risk. The most important thing is to score points steadily. Otherwise, no matter the amount of flashy swings you make, the result will always be 0. Although Sawamura is confident of making a hit, he also knows that this is not the time to be impulsive. The favorable situation created by the team depends on the team to score points. Ping. 76. Chapter 76. Score. After the small white ball was touched by the bat, It rolled beautifully between the first baseman and the pitcher. The rolling speed was just right. The bat dropped, and Sawamura ran to first base like a madman. His speed was so fast. Although he wasn't as fast as Kuramochi, who was like a cheetah before, but he wasn't much slower than an average high school student. It must be known that the high school students mentioned here are based in the 3rd grade. Sawamura is 2 years younger than them, and there is still a significant gap in physical development. Taking all these into consideration, even in terms of speed, Sawamura has a lot to do. Of course, he couldn't compete with a talented starter like Kuramochi, but this speed was already a lot faster than that of the players of the same year. Sawamura ran beautifully and the bunt even more beautifully. Even if the average person rolls the baseball with his hand, he may not be able to roll the ball better than Sawamura bunt. Even from the most demanding professional point of view, Sawamura's bunt was enough to score more than 95 points. Anyone who sees it can't help but give a thumbs up, praise it, and admire its beauty. However, now there are not many people who are focusing on Sawamura who use bunt. But more attention is to Ryosuke, who steals the base. Although he was not very fast, he was mentally prepared and acted in advance, and he returned to home plate neatly. Seco scored the second point, extending the score to 0-2. The pitcher Ito may be silly looking, but his defense was good, rushed forward when he saw Sawamura's bunt. Sanjo looked at Ryosuke Kaminado, who was approaching, frowned, and gave Ito instructions. Pass first base. At this time, if he passed the ball to home plate and tried to touch Kaminado, it would obviously be too late. On the contrary, it is first base because there is no need to touch. As long as the pass is passed, Sawamura can be blocked, and there is a better chance of getting out. Snap! The pass and Sawamura arrived at first base almost at the same time. Sawamura and Narita's first baseman, Koizumi, looked at the referee on the first base side at the same time. The referee hesitated and finally crossed his hands. Out! Sawamura didn't say anything and walked back to the rest area. Now in the stands, the members of the Demon King's Guard. What's wrong with the referee? He just arrived at base first, right? Is he playing favorite? Go home. The first base referee blushed and was speechless. In the scene just now, in fact, it is not impossible to save Sawamura. It's just that in 2 cases, it is the decision to help the weaker party. He also took advantage of the situation to sentence Sawamura out, but he did not expect to be treated like this. A teenage boy in front of the guards waved his hand commandingly. In the queue, the noisy voice gradually stopped. The leader looked at the referee at first base with amusement, his eyes filled with warnings. This time I'll let you go first. If we do it again, we will never show mercy. The referee broke out in a cold sweat. Those idiots. Children these days, really appalling. The judges over there have no guts to argue with them. In contrast, another fan group supporting Sawamura is much more civilized. Obayashi and Kobayashi, looking at the immature faces of the Demon King's Guard, were very speechless. This is too unreliable. Who do they think they are? The Yakuza? How barbaric! Kobayashi muttered. Pay attention to unity. Although Obayashi also saw that Miyamoto and the others were unhappy, there were children in the majority, so he couldn't say anything. Moreover, both parties are fans of Sawamura, so they should pay attention to unity and influence. It's one thing to fight each other internally, but it's another thing to expose this kind of infighting and make people laugh at them. As Sawamura's diehard fans, the most loyal group, of course, they couldn't do this. Seco's rest area. Kuramochi looked at the Demon King's guards greedily and said to Sawamura, "You have lackeys. Aren't you doing all right?" "They're not my lackeys." Sawamura didn't like what Kuramochi said. He frowned in reply. "Huh?" Kuramochi looked over with a fierce look. "What are you looking at? You think I'm afraid of you?" Sawamura ignored him and returned to the bench chair. He has just suffered losses, and there is no reason to argue with Kuramochi about this. In Sawamura's mind, both the Brotherhood of Red Heart and the Demon King's Guard are like his family. It's a bit nasty to say, but Sawamura really likes and respects them from the bottom of his heart. Whether in the past or this life, Sawamura's character has never changed. If he changed, he wouldn't be him anymore. The game continued, with 2 outs and a runner at second base. When Sawamura hit a bunt, Tetsu took the opportunity to hit second base. Sidu's offensive principles have always been simple. Aim aggressively at the next base and attack. As long as there is a chance, you absolutely don't have to worry about the players of Sidu missing the chance to hit the base. Sixth, third baseman Masuko-kun. When Masuko came on the field, he deliberately glanced at Sawamura. Sawamura, seeing this Kohai in the same dormitory, Masuko was filled with emotion. His fifth batter position was actually squeezed out of the core line. And it's just his second game, it is natural to be reluctant. But at the same time, Masuko is also a little relieved. With the participation of Sawamura, they can probably enter Koshien this year. As a senpai, I can't keep standing. After Masuko stood in the strike zone, he remained motionless. Looking at Masuko like this made Sanjo feel a little uneasy. Sidu's lineup is really scary, as if it is a storm that will not stop at all. Now that there are 2 outs, this game must be resolved as soon as possible no matter what. Otherwise, if it continues, the first inning is likely to become a big inning. To avoid this from happening, they must be careful. The first pitch must be a ball to the inside corner. The second pitch must seduce the batter to swing with a low slider. With a plan in mind, Sanjo gave Ito a sign and asked him to throw a ball on the inside corner first to scare the batter. Whoosh! Ito pitched the ball, and Sanjo's brows furrowed tightly. Again, the ball slid out and slid quite a bit, getting close to the center of the strike zone. Such a good pitch, maybe it will be swept out. On the strike zone, Masuko's bat grip is not long. I don't need too much effort. As long as I swing the bat smoothly, I'll be fine. If you compare strength, I will not lose. Ping! The white ball was hit, and then like a laser, it traversed the entire field and landed in the backmost corner of the field. Aga, Masuko clenched his fists excitedly, threw away his bat, and started running. Tetsu returned to home plate, and Masuko ran to third base in one breath. 2 outs, runner at third base. Sita scored the third point. 7th, Datter, catcher, Takigawa-kun. With much suspense, Chris swung his bat at the sweet ball. Ping, a standard hit across the shortstop's field. Masuko returned to home plate to help the team take the 4th point. This was also the last point Sita scored in the first inning. 0:4. Under the continuous bombardment, Sidu expanded the score to 4 points in 1 inning. 77. Chapter 77. Jesus Chris. The first inning is over, and the score is 4 o'clock. Sidu had 8 batters take turns in total, who had 4 hits and 4 RBIs. What the Sidu lineup shows now is the explosive lineup they are always famous for. 145 kilometers fastball pitcher who also has a winning shot. Such a pitcher, despite the weakness of control, is still very good overall. With a good defense, it is even more powerful. When playing games before, he often used his power to play with his opponents in the palm of his hand. As the representative of Chiba Prefecture, Narita Industrial entered the Kando tournament and defeated the opponent in the first round. It stands to reason that such a team should not be so vulnerable, right? In the audience, 2 reporters communicate with each other. Ito, the ace of Narita Industrial today, doesn't seem to be in shape. The pitchers are very magical creatures. When in the zone, they become unstoppable. Once they're not in the zone, it is very easy to collapse. Today's Ito is a little frizzy. Another reporter shook his head. Even if he is not in shape, his ball speed and power are still there. Ordinary batters will be under enormous pressure just by standing in the strike zone. But Sidu players not only are not affected, but can be precise. Hit those balls into the defensive gaps. That's not something a normal batter can do. However, in the past few years, Sita High School has not entered Koshien because of luck. But you have to say that Kataoka is a very good coach. The players of Sita High School were trained very well by him. In the first half of the second inning, Narita Industrial attacked. 4th batter, pitcher Ito-kun. Ito is not only a strong pitcher, but also a strong batter on the team. 4th batter, an ace. Nothing else, just by looking at his title, you can know his status in Narita. The catcher, Chris, looked at Ito and his eyes became sharp. Now in this situation, Sidu has an absolute advantage, and the opponent must be eager to recover the score. Especially when the 4th batter is on the field. Ito is an intuitive batter. If he's in a hurry to swing, He'll swing even if he's swinging at a ball or from a bad corner. Then use a fishing ball. First, tempt him to swing, use a hard-to-hit ball to score strikes by fouls, and finally use the winning shot to kill him in one go. Thinking, Chris gave Tampa the ball. On the mound, Tampa understood Chris's tactics without any obstacle. As expected of Chris. Compared with Miyuki, who only thinks about being reckless and constantly squeezing his luck, Chris's ball sequence plans are clearer and he can switch freely. As if he never considered the situation where he would miss a pitch. Chris put absolute trust in Tampa. Throw it in. On the mound, Tampa felt every cell in his body being mobilized. Yes, I will pitch, and I'll be sure to make it count. Whoosh. The first ball, an inner corner pitch that shaved the edge of the inner corner and flew toward the glove. This position makes it difficult for the batter to swing. Ito was unable to swing the bat. Snap. Strike. In the catcher's position, Chris sat with the glove and caught Tampa's ball in the glove. Nice pitch, saying that he passed the ball back to Tampa. On the mound, Tampa looked at Chris in surprise. The pitch just now was a ball, but saved by the guy Chris. Even now, standing on the same field as his battery partner, he couldn't help but sigh. This guy Chris is different. Nice pitch, suppressed the batter. Come on, that's it, go on. At the rear, the voice of cheering came from the third-year players. Tetsu, Isashiki Misuko, and Kaminado, the third-year seniors, each with their heads held high. In the outfield position, Sawamura glanced at Tampa in surprise. He didn't know before that Tampa could throw such an extreme edge pitch. If this is the case, then the next ace number battle is really interesting. Sidhu's rest area. Miyuki looked at Chris with bright eyes. As expected of Chris Senpai. Such mitting skills, he could do it too. But he couldn't be as silent as Chris so that the referee would not have any doubts. I really can't see that he has a blank period of a full year. On the strike zone, Ito's face was so ugly that he looked back at the referee. Can the ball just now be considered a strike? If this is the case, then the strike zone can't just stay on the original sideline, and even some edge balls can't be let go. Ping. On the second ball, Ito swung his bat and flew out of bounds. Foul. The count is 2 strikes and 0 balls. The catcher, Chris, lifted his eyelids and glanced at Ito. Ito looks silly on the outside, but on the second ball, there's a clear hitting strategy. This doesn't seem like something that no-brainer batter can do. That being the case, then the last ball, use it. Seeing Chris's sign, Tampa's expression changed. However, out of trust in Chris, he still pitched. Whoosh. The white ball whizzed. On the strike zone, a murderous aura flashed in Ito's eyes. The bat swung out, and Ito hit the ball decisively. Ping. The bat hit the white ball and smashed it hard. The ball was hit, but Ito's face was strange. This ball was not the high drop curve he expected, but an ordinary straight ball. Damn. Leave it to me. In the outfield, Sawamura waited under the baseball and took the small white ball into his glove. Snap. Out. The ace Ito is out. This is a huge blow to Narita Industrial. Then in the fifth, Koizumi hit an infield grounder, which was caught by Ryosuke and sent to first base, and Tetsuya caught it. Out. 2 outs, no one on base. The sixth batter, catcher, Sanjo-kun. Strike. Strike batter out. 3 outs, offense and defense exchange. In the second game, the core of Narita Industrial, the fourth, fifth, and sixth, with 3 ups and 3 downs. They were played by Chris. Of course, such an effect can be achieved, and Chris alone cannot do it. In this game, at least so far, Tampa's performance is very eye-catching. For Sidhu's third-year players, this feeling is long gone. They haven't felt this kind of stability for a long time. With Chris on the field, they wouldn't worry about the pitcher's sudden collapse. It's amazing. Sawamura gave Chris a strange look and then another look at Tampa. He doesn't know if it was his delusion, but when he was partnering with Chris, Tampa acted like a different person. Chris, like magic, tapped out all of Tampa's potential. It's just weird. Why didn't he feel that way when he was partnering with Chris? 78. Chapter 78. Explosion. Amazing. The stands are cheering and watching the fun, just from seeing Tampa's excellent pitching. After all, Tampa can suppress Narita, who is not weak, to this extent, and his pitching performance is naturally good. But the real expert will not be attracted by these appearances alone. They will focus more on the catcher who replaced Miyuki. Chris. This catcher, when he was on the field, was no worse than Miyuki and even showed another kind of skills. The appeal is equally eye-catching. If a catcher like Miyuki was substituted, there must be many people who would criticize. Once the catcher from the bench does not perform well, he will be criticized like a storm. In the most stable position in the team, and you make blind substitutions. Isn't it a joke? It's fine if he wins, but if he loses, the spit can drown Kataoka. But so far, no one at the scene has raised objections. This also means that Chris has completely replaced Miyuki's position so far. It's amazing. Many reporters firmly remember the name Takigawa Chrisyu. They have realized that this will be a very attractive big news. In the second half of the second inning, Seido High School attacked. The Narita Industrial, which suffered successive blows, began to cheer up, especially their ace pitcher, Ito. The control of the ball began to stabilize, and the number of outs was successively won. Although the speed of the ball decreased slightly, the control of the ball was greatly improved. With the increase of strikes, Ito's pitching gradually entered the zone, and the power and speed of the ball also came out. He finally began to show the strength of a famous school ace pitcher. In the second inning, Shiratsu hit an infield grounder and was blocked out. Kuramochi was struck out by a sudden low slider after hitting fouls. 2 outs and no one on base. Kuramochi, who was struck out, met Kaminado Ryosuke. His low sliders are hard to handle. Kuramochi frowned and shared information with Ryosuke. It doesn't matter, you can force that kind of ball out, it's already very good. Ryosuke said with a smile. Seeing Ryosuke walking into the strike zone, the nerves in Sanjo's body subconsciously began to tighten. This is the hardest batter to deal with. If it wasn't the second inning just now, Sanjo would even want Ito to use a low slider to strike out Kaminado. It's just that the game has just started. If he does that, in the second half of the game, Seido's batters will gradually get used to Ito's low slider. Then they have no hope at all. Just use the power of the ball to suppress him. The position of the ball cannot be too sweet. If it is too sweet, it will also be smashed out. Regardless of his petite figure, he still has strength. On the pitcher's mound, Ito nodded and pitched the ball. Whoosh! A small white ball flew out. At this time, Kaminado Ryosuke also had his plans. The breaking ball that has high expectations is difficult to hit. Otherwise, there will be no high expectations. But not necessarily do I have to hit your winning shot. The corner of Kaminado Ryosuke's mouth brought out a cold smile. Although it is good to choose 4-ball, right now, I still want to hit the ball with your confidence. Coming. Just when Kaminado made up his mind, Ito's pitch came, and the ball landed just below the center. Is this a slider or a normal straight? It's a straight. After Ryosuke Kaminado confirmed it, he decisively swung the bat. Ping! The white ball was thrown and landed in front of the third baseman. The third baseman of Narita Industries opened his glove and confiscated the ball. Out. 3 outs, offense and defense exchange. In the second game, the defense of Narita Industrial performed very well. In the first half of the third inning, Narita Industrial attacked. In the face of Narita's lower lineup, Tampa beautifully scored 2 strikeouts and a shutout. At this time, the abilities of Chris also came out. On the surface, both Chris and Miyuki can guide the pitcher to a better state, and the two are similar. But it's not the same. Miyuki's pitch calling is a bit like squeezing toothpaste. Through constant squeezing, the pitcher can explode his strength. On the surface, Miyuki seemed to be assisting, but in fact, he is also taking the initiative to a certain extent. Of course, this is good and bad. If the pitcher can keep up with Miyuki's rhythm, then the two of them will be able to explode with the strength of 1 + 1 greater than 2. And if the pitcher can't keep up with the rhythm, Miyuki has to accommodate the pitcher and change his calling. Overall, Miyuki is a strong catcher. The stronger the pitcher, the stronger he can play. As for Chris, on the surface, he is stricter than Miyuki, but he plays with the batter and pays attention to conditioning things silently. His guidance allows pitchers to unconsciously display their strengths. He will consciously adjust his pitch calling according to the state of the pitcher. Of these two, it cannot be said who is stronger and who is weaker. It can only be said that each has his own advantages. In the second half of the third inning, Seto High School attacked. In the face of Ito, who had recovered his strength, Isashiki took the lead with a hit, and then Tetsu got a walk. When Sawamura took the zone, the situation was that no one was out, and there were runners at first and second base. Faced with this situation, Sawamura aimed at Ito's low slider and swung his bat. Ping! An outfield long hit. Isashiki ran straight back to home plate, and Tetsu made it to third base, while Sawamura himself only went to first base. Because the outfielder was too close to second base, he didn't need to take chances. Compared with taking a risk to win a base, Sawamura judged that it is more meaningful to keep this number of outs low. Next, Masuko went to the strike zone and used a bunt to walk Tetsuya back to home plate to help the team score the 6 point. The total score is 6 o'clock. 1 out, runner at second base. Ping! Chris had a hit. Sawamura, who had arrived at second base after Masuko's bunt, ran back to home plate in one breath, helping the team score the 7th point. It's not that Ito's pitching is bad, and it's not that Narita's defense is really weak. It's just that they were completely suppressed by their opponents. The third inning is over, and the score is 7 o'clock. In the second round of the Kanto tournament, Seto High School's lineup exploded. In the stands with a baseball team, Mima looked at the Seto High School baseball team on the field with a complicated expression. He didn't need to play the next game. Even from the sidelines, he could feel the strength of Seto High School. Strong, a little too strong. It's hard to imagine that such a Seto hasn't entered Koshien for 5 consecutive years. Besides Mima, a teammate said disbelievingly. This shows how terrifying the brutal battle zone, West Tokyo, is. Even if you have the strength, if you lack luck, it is not easy to get ahead. However, the teams that come out of this kind of place must have the strength to compete for the national hegemony. If we want to aim for national hegemony, then we must overcome this difficulty. At the end of the third inning, Seto High School announced a substitution. Pitchers, catchers, all substitutions. 79. Chapter 79. Charisma of Monsters. In the second round of the Kanto tournament, Seto played in the game against Narita Industry. The 3 innings ended, and the score between the two sides was 7 o'clock. Seto High School firmly grasped the initiative on the field. In the first half of the fourth inning, Narita attacked. At the beginning of the game, Seto High School replaced ace pitcher Tampa and catcher Chris, who had performed very well so far. Miyuki Koen, the catcher, Furuya Koen, the pitcher, is now on the field. Suddenly, the battery which performed very well was replaced. The most irritating thing is that the pitcher replaced is still a freshman. First grade again, Coach Chazawa looked at Furuya, his brows subconsciously wrinkled. Coach Kataoka did it, and now he has completely regarded them as the training objects of the new students. Then we don't have to hold back. Chazawa shook his neck, his eyes sharpened. Hit them hard. Not every freshman is Sawamura. Even Coach Chazawa had to admit Sawamura's strength. Whether it is the talent and skills that Sawamura showed in middle school, the heights he achieved, or the strength he showed after entering high school, Sawamura is a very tricky pitcher. Sawamura had a very strong presence. Even in high school, it was still extensive. If the pitcher was Sawamura, even if he didn't give up the game, Director Chazawa knew that their chances of winning would be very slim. But how many guys like Sawamura can there be? Even if you look all over the country for 10 or even 20 years, it would be good to find 1 or 2. No matter how good Seto High School is, it is impossible to recruit 2 such freshman pitchers simultaneously. Although the gap of 7 points is not small, that doesn't mean they can't get back. If Seto High School became this reckless on their own, then Coach Chazawa wouldn't mind and would fulfill their wish. Miyuki, who just played, felt the resurgence and eagerness of Narita and smirked in his mind. They are underestimating us. Do you think there is no one on the pitcher mound of Seto High School except for Tampa Senpai and that guy Sawamura? On the pitcher's mound, Isashiki patted Furuya on the back. Furuya, cherish this opportunity. With Tampa and that stinky boy Sawamura around, you won't have many chances, so cherish every time. If you lose within 2 points, then there is no problem. Guys who can replace you if you drop more than 2 points are always ready. Furuya glanced at Sawamura beside him and Kawakami, who was preparing in the bullpen, and nodded. Yes, I'm not going to let the opponent hit my pitch. Seeing Furuya with such a high spirit, Miyuki subconsciously frowned. Don't be too excited. You know that once you push yourself too hard, you won't be able to throw the ball with good speed. Furuya was stunned. He almost forgot about this. Most of the surrounding seniors gave a few words of encouragement. After all, this was the first time that Furuya Saru had officially stepped onto the pitching mound of Seto High School. Whether you were concerned or worried, they can't help but say a few more words. In the end, only Sawamura was left, and he didn't say a word yet. Everyone knows that Sawamura must be in a complicated mood now. They don't expect him to say any blessings to Furuya at this time. In fact, from his standpoint, it is difficult for Sawamura to give sincere blessings to Furuya Satoru. For the sake of his friend, Sawamura can provide all the help he can. But he was unwilling to give up the pitcher mound to Furuya, not even if they're good friends. From the standpoint of a friend, Sawamura certainly hopes that Furuya can perform well. But from the standpoint of a rival, it is difficult for him to say any words of blessing to Furuya. All right, whatever. After a long silence, Sawamura finally gave Furuya a few words. If you don't perform well, I can always do it for you. Furuya looked at Sawamura seriously and said, I won't give you a chance. That's good. The game resumed, and facing Narita's first batter, Furuya Satoru threw his first pitch on behalf of Seto High School. Furuya's stride and center of gravity movements are just like standard movements, very natural and smooth. No big deal. Seeing Furuya like this, the batter of Narita subconsciously relaxed his vigilance. It's just the most common pitching form, and he can't think of anything wrong. After all, he is a first-year pitcher. Let's just destroy him quickly and score as much as possible before they get Sawamura on the mound. It should be easy, right? What could possibly go wrong? This thought had just occurred, and before he could let it go, what happened next made him stunned. Furuya's ball was thrown. Roar! As if the sky was falling apart, a small white ball flew from the pitcher's mound. This white ball has its sound effects. It exudes a low, harsh sound as if to pierce the eardrum. From the batter's point of view, it felt like it wasn't a baseball at all, but an unknown little monster. The monster kept attacking, and it felt like it was going to devour the batter. Stop, stop! Almost instinctively, with the bat in the batter's hand, he swung to defend himself. Right now, the batter felt that if he didn't swing the bat, he would be swallowed up by Furuya's pitching momentum. Boom! The bat missed, and the small white ball went straight into Miyuki's open glove. Strike! One ball, just one pitch. Thousands of fans fell into an eerie silence. They looked at the small white ball in Miyuki's hands in disbelief, and then turned their dumbfounded faces to the pitching mound. They looked at the tall, thin young man on the mound with questioning eyes. What was that just now? How fast is that ball? It feels like an unknown creature, full of mystery and danger. What is that? So fast, really fast. Is that pitcher also a freshman? What's his name? Why have I never heard of such a powerful guy among the freshmen of Seto High School? How fast was the ball just now? It feels like it's approaching 150 kilometers. Let's just say Seto High School is so lucky this year. Not only did they get Sawamura Eijun, but they also got such a fastball pitcher. It's simply heaven sent. When Sawamura joined before, I had this feeling the golden age of Seto High School is here. Seto High School, which originally had a weak pitching squad, suddenly joined these two new forces, which is like a rebirth. Furuya only threw a ball. He successfully captured the hearts of thousands of fans on the scene. This is the charisma of monsters. 80. Chapter 80, No Regrets. What was that? Coach Chazawa stared at Furuya on the pitcher's mound in a stunned manner, with a chill in his heart. Fast, too fast. Even the players of Narita have used the pitching machine to do a simulated strike practice with a ball speed of 150 kilometers. But when they saw Furuya throwing the ball, they were still at a loss. The reason why the players of Seto High School can easily deal with Ito, who has a ball speed of 145 kilometers, is that their biggest imaginary enemy in West Tokyo is a fastball pitcher with a ball speed far exceeding 145 kilometers. Narumiya May, players at Sita High School have practiced this speed many times. This is also the reason why they can swing the bat calmly, without escaping, when facing Ito pitching. However, this is not the case for the players of Narita. Although they have also practiced at the speed of 150 kilometers by the pitching machine, but that was just practice exercises, which means that they are barely familiar, and players are not required to hit at that kind of speed. This is fundamentally different from Sita players, because there are pitchers with a ball speed of over 145 kilometers in West Tokyo. All the batters at Sita High School have to hit the ball with a speed of 145 kilometers per hour or even 150 kilometers per hour. This gap in experience directly caused two completely different effects. It was the first time that the players of Sita High School faced Ito's pitch, and they could swing the bat calmly and finish the swing without flinching at all. On the contrary, the players of Narita could only avoid and escape in the face of Furuya's fastball. As for calming down and swinging the bat, it's simply impossible. 150 kilometers and 140 kilometers on the surface, there is only a 10-kilometer difference in ball speed. But these 10 kilometers are two completely different realms. The 150-kilometer ball, even in the major leagues, can be famous with just fastballs. That is not a realm that ordinary people can hone by simply relying on hard work. From the pitcher's hand to the catcher's glove, the 150-kilometer ball just needs 0.4 seconds. In these 0.4 seconds, the batter must have a clear view of the path of the ball and keep up with the speed and skill of the swing. Without enough practice and enough mental preparation, how could it be possible to hit? During normal circumstances, Furuya's performance is full of problems, and he seems completely unreliable. But once on the mound, the effect is completely different. His presence is unmatched by ordinary pitchers. Strike! Strike batter out! The first batter of Narita was struck out without any suspense. In the face of Furuya, who came out of nowhere like this, Narita Industrial had nothing to do. Strike! Strike batter out! There was also no suspense next, and Narita's second batter was struck out. At this time, the coach of Narita, Chazawa, had already discovered a very big problem in the pitching of Furuya. That is, many of the balls he throws are high, so high that they go beyond the strike zone. Looking from the side, he can see that these pitches are high balls. A very obvious high ball. Since the players can't hit, they can also take advantage of this opportunity and choose to entangle with the pitcher. As long as Furuya throws more balls, they will gradually find more problems in his pitching. Don't swing at the high balls. When the third batter is in the strike zone, Coach Chazawa immediately gave him the order to let him pass all the high ball courses, whether it was a strike or not. This order is not difficult to do. Even if it is a short 0.4 seconds, it is not impossible to distinguish whether the ball is on the high side or the low side. It's just that from the strike zone, Furuya's pitching is far from simple. When the baseball was first thrown, it gave the batter the impression that the ball was very low. If you don't swing, you're definitely in the strike zone. And after a few meters close to the batter, the ball will suddenly rise. The high speed of the ball and the harsh sound completely disturb the batter's nerves. This may sound a bit too advanced, but the actual situation is that the batter stood in the strike zone watching Furuya Satoru's pitching and was completely stunned. This is also a strong school like Narita Industrial. If you change to a normal school, the average batter is likely to be paralyzed on the ground. This is Furuya Satoru's pitching. Without prior information, you wouldn't have the qualifications to stand in the strike zone and hit Sawamura's pitching. Similarly, without any psychological construction, you are dead when you face Furuya's pitching. Strike! Strike batter out! Without any suspense, it was another 3-pitch strikeout. 9 pitches, 3 strikeouts. Although if the batter didn't swing, a full 5 of those 9 balls were just high balls. But there is no if in the world. Just looking at the performance of the game, Furuya Satoru stood on the pitching mound of Sita High School for the first time, and the performance was perfect. Not worse than Sawamura's performance after he got on the mound yesterday. Even simply speaking of the sensational effect and visual impact caused. The visual impact and effect brought by Furuya Satoru are far more than Sawamura. Monster. Monster. 3 outs, offense, and defense exchange. In the second half of the 4th inning, Seto High School attacked. At this time, the batter from Seto High School has already rotated for 2 rounds. First batter, shortstop Kuramochi, and this time Kuramochi stood on the left box. The strike zone on the left is closer to the first base. Sanjo judged that Kuramochi was likely to steal bases. He had a fresh memory of the speed that Kuramochi had shown before. To prevent such an unfavorable situation, he also made a special target. The defense moves forward, and at the same time, the pitch is mainly low balls. Such balls, even if Kuramochi wants to bunt it, it is not easy. And even if the bunt hits the ball, the probability of hitting and not rolling on the ground is very high. For the bunt, the ball not rolling on the ground is simply a failed bunt. Sanjo thought very well, especially when he saw Kuramochi held the bat short. He was more confident and prepared to take Kuramochi. Where can he think of the cunning Kuramochi, who didn't use the bunt at all, but retracted the bat and hit the ball again? Feint. Kuramochi feinted and hit the base successfully. No outs, runner at first base. Today's Kuramochi performance is perfect. 3 at bat, 2 hits. Compared to his previous performance, this was a complete mess. Hi-ha. Kuramochi himself is also very happy and very satisfied with his performance now. The small knot that had been bothering him was also untied by itself. He was extremely grateful that Narita Industrial had given up on him. If Narita Industrial hadn't given up on him, how could he have come to Seto? How could there be such a huge improvement? Second batter, second baseman, Kaminato Kuin. 81. Chapter 81. Plans gone wrong. The runner on the base is Kuramochi, and the batter on the strike zone is Kaminato Ryosuke, who was judged to be the most difficult batter by Sanjo. This situation is irritating for Narita Industrial. It was already 7-0 behind, and the pitcher showed a desperate pitching. Now, it was difficult for Narita to continue the game with Seto. As a team, they reached the second round of the Kanto tournament and one of the top 8. They always have to show their fighting spirit and strength. You must know that this kind of competition in the Kanto tournament is not the same as the internal competition in a region. In the internal competition of a region, no matter how embarrassed you lose, you will not face the pressure of the entire region. Most of them just marvel at the strength of the winner. But at the Kanto tournament, you are not only representing yourself, you are also representing your region. When people say their names, they're all Chiba Prefecture Narita Industrial High School. At this time, the competition is not just about the school and the players. Just like their current match against Seto, Seto showed unimaginable strength. In the face of such an opponent, it is inevitable for the Narita to lose to the opponent because of its poor strength. You can lose only after fighting hard. But losing is different from being butchered by the opponent. Now Narita doesn't dare to say that they can win Seto. But at least they want to show their fighting spirit. It's better to get a point and not lose too ugly. After all, they represent not only Narita, but also the Chiba region teams. At least survive this inning. In the next inning, the 5th inning, as long as Seto scored more than 10 points, the game was over. The mercy rule for ending a game early is 5 innings with a lead of more than 5 points, and 7 innings with a lead of more than 7 points. That is to say, by the 5th inning, they will at most lose a score of 10 o'clock. Although this is also disgraceful, it won't be too ugly. On the field of Koshien, the score of 10 o'clock has appeared in the quarterfinals and even the semifinals. But if they can't suppress Seto's batters this inning and let Seto's lineup explode again, it's hard to say how many points it will be. And the first half of the 5th inning will likely be playable, and Seto simply does not need to attack in the second half of the 5th inning. If it really evolves into this situation, it will be even more embarrassing. The most important thing is the number of outs. Even if you lose points, you must end the inning as soon as possible. Sanjo made a very cowardly decision. But there is no way, until now, all the energy of the Narita players has long been dissipated by Seto's players. They have completely lost hope of this game, looking forward to the end of the game as soon as possible. so as not to continue to stay on the field shamefully. Sanjo may look cowardly, but he wants to end the game as soon as possible to avoid causing too much trauma to his friends. In less than 2 months, the summer competition that will start is the top priority of all teams. In order not to cause the players to suffer more psychological trauma before that, Sanjo can only choose to stop the bleeding of points. What could possibly go any more wrong? When Sanjo decided to use points in exchange for the number of outs, he put himself in Narita Industrial High School on the chopping block, waiting to be slaughtered. If the initiative is handed over to Sidu, then it is not up to him to have the final say. Kuramochi steals base to second base. Sanjo and Ito ignored it. They wanted Sidu to do so. In this way, after Kuramochi reaches second base, he walks to third base and walks to home plate. They can easily take 2 outs and trade 1 point for 2 outs, which seems like a bargain for Sanjo. Moreover, Sidu did this before. That is, when there is a chance to score points steadily, they will definitely not be greedy. If it is like this, then thank you very much. Seeing that Sanjo and Narita Industries were obviously in such a state, Kataoka immediately changed his face. How easy is it to get out? He immediately gave Kaminato Ryosuke a sign and ordered Ryosuke to beat them savagely. All right, let's do it. Who is Kaminato Ryosuke? Even a human trafficker would probably be able to sell people to such a ruthless person. Seeing Narita like this, he naturally didn't mind beating up the sick dog. Ping, seizing the opportunity, he gets a hit. Ryosuke hits the first base, and Kuramochi advances to third base. No one out, runner on first and third base. At this time, Sanjo felt like crying. How could Sita be so cruel? Isn't this an obvious bullying? We have made concessions, which is equivalent to admitting defeat. Why are you guys still not forgiving? At this time, Sanjo realized that there was no use in retreating. The more they retreated, the more Sidu advanced. If so, then fight. But can they still fight? Sita's attacks have already been linked together. If you fight recklessly at this time, it will be no different from hanging yourself. After that, Isashiki got a hit, and Kuramochi returned to home plate to help Sidu score the 8th run. At the same time, Ryosuke was on second base, and Isashiki was on first base. No one out, runner at first and second base. Fourth batter, first baseman, Yuki-kun. Seeing Tetsu, Sanjo really wanted to let him walk. He really didn't have the confidence to face Yuki Tetsuya. But no, after he made the walk, the situation will become no one was out and the base was full. Ordinarily, when the bases are full, it's easier to get outs because you don't need to think about the runners. Just focus on the batters. But the problem is that Sidu's next best batter is Sawamura. In the previous game against Yokohama North, Sawamura had 3 hits in 4 at-bat, including a home run. Sawamura had 2 at-bat before today, with 1 walk and 1 hit, all scoring. In terms of performance alone, Sawamura's 2 games are not worse than Yuki go head-to-head with such a batter on full bases. How about a duel with Yuki? Anyway, the situation is already bad. At most, they would give Sidu a hit. With a determined heart, Sanjo and Ito chose to fight recklessly. Ball! After 2 balls in a row, Tetsuya didn't swing the bat, and he didn't even lift his eyelids. Sanjo frowned secretly, steadily waiting for the ball, as sharp as a hawk. Yuki Tetsuya, standing on the strike zone, is so annoying. But no matter how annoying it is, you have to pitch a strike. Otherwise, it would be meaningless to just give Yuki a walk and then deal with a full base. It would be the same as the previous walk plan. Come on, a low sliders. Another winning shot. Ping. This winning shot was what Yuki Tetsuya aiming for. The ball, which Sanjo and Ito had high hopes for, became a living target and was frequently hit. Snap! The baseball lands behind the outfielder and hits the protective wall. By the time the outfielder returned, Ryosuke had passed third base and returned to home plate. At the same time, Isashiki went to third base and Tetsu to first base. Again, no out, runner at first and third base. 82. Chapter 82, more runs. The total score is 9 o'clock. No out, runner on first and third base. At this time, it was Sawamura's turn to attack. If I get a home run, it'll be perfect. When Sawamura stood in the strike zone, he couldn't help thinking. Today's Seedoo, whether it is attacking or defending, has no weakness, and it is a perfect game. There is definitely an element of luck here. Narita's ace pitcher, Ito, for example, was struggling with ball control at the start of the game. Otherwise, Seida High School would have a hard time scoring a lot of points in the first inning. Later, as Ito's pitching accuracy increased, his ball was gradually stopped Seedoo's batters, so the scoring started to decrease. But just 3 innings of the game, Seida High School's lineup has rotated twice. By the time the players from Seida High School came on the field in the 4th inning, this was their 3rd round of batting against Ito. To be honest, just looking at the strength, the Narita Industrial High School does have a big gap from Seida High School, but this gap is not as big as the score on the field shows. Overall, the strength of Narita is still good. If they compete at a normal pace, they are not completely unqualified to play against Seedoo. It's just that they made many mistakes themselves at the beginning, and Seedoo players have not let this opportunity pass. And this creates a vicious circle. So far, the game has just reached the 4th inning, and the score gap between the two sides has approached 10 runs. At this moment, Sawamura Eijun went to the strike zone. Ping! The white ball was locked on by Sawamura, who hit the ball beautifully. Isashiki was sent back to home plate, and Seida High School led the score by a full 10 in the 4th inning. We are done. Seeing Isashiki returning to home plate, Sanjo closed his eyes in despair. Narita Industrial, who are planning to use this inning as a turnaround, is now completely drained. Now, even if they get 3 straight outs and don't drop a single run, it's useless. If in the first half of the 5th inning, they can't take runs from that monster, Furuya Satoru, then the game will end in the first half of 5 innings. It is not very uncommon for strong teams to confront each other with a large score gap. After all, if you often walk by the river, how can you not get wet shoes? There is no way to not have bad luck, especially with the state of the pitcher, which is even more difficult to work with. When 2 strong teams play against each other, one side's lineup overperforms and the other side's pitcher collapses, which can easily cause such a situation. But as it is now, it is still very embarrassing to be defeated by the opponent's restless assault. Anyway, they're also a famous school. Even if the pitcher is out of shape today, the fielder is always in shape. What is the standard of a national team? It is a luxurious defense like an iron wall. Even if your pitcher isn't really in shape, they can get a lot of outs just by defense. In such a situation, they're still defeated by their opponent in 4 innings. Doesn't that mean that they're not qualified to be called a famous school at all? If you put on other teams, if they don't qualify, then it is okay. But as a prefecture representative, and they're not even strong, how can this be justified? Sanjo can almost imagine what kind of ridicule and questioning they will face when they go back. But the result is the result. The fact is already like this. There is no way to escape the 3 out. They have to face them. But this time, his mentality has changed, and he feels a little bit broken. Anyway, it's already like this. What could possibly go any more wrong? Show your best pitching now. Ito nodded silently when he saw the sign given to him by Sanjo. In his eyes, a scarlet light also began to appear. The two had already made up their minds to enjoy the game. No need for it to work really well. Ito threw the low slider, his winning shot, with everything he had. The ball speed is approaching 145 kilometers, and the ball path is sliding at a low angle. It has to be said that this kind of ball is still challenging to hit. Ping. Masuko didn't have a good contact with the ball and played high-flying. Snap! The shortstop of Narita Industrial waited early under the baseball and caught the ball in his glove. Out! Finally, in the second half of the 4th round, Narita began to score outs. Seida High School failed to score with no one out and 2 runners on the base. Nice pitch. Seeing Ito begin to show his fighting spirit, Sanjo was extremely excited. After he was praised loudly, he passed the ball back to Ito. 1 out, runner at first and second base. It was Miyuki's turn to replace Chris. Have you started to cheer up? Seeing Ito, who was gradually showing his fighting spirit in pitching, Miyuki laughed wickedly. If Ito just pitched like this, the score is likely to end at 10 o'clock. This will not work. Everyone is rarely so energetic. How can the score stop it right? A smirk appeared on the corner of his mouth, and after tangled with 2 balls, Miyuki aimed at Ito's low slider and swung decisively. Ping! The white ball was hit and flew far away. The outfielder for Narita followed the ball, backed up, and finally stopped in desperation. He found that he had no way back. The baseball crossed the boundary and landed in the outfield audience. Fly out. 3-point golden home run. Seedo star player Miyuki Kanzuya. When Narita Industrial had already been thrown into the abyss by Sawamura, Miyuki was very devious and gave them another 3 runs. The score is 13-0. Seedo High School had already scored a full 6 points in the bottom half of the 4th inning. The scariest part is that it's not over yet. After Miyuki, Furuya also hit a home run to help the team expand the score to 14 points. The second half of the 4th inning is over, and the score is 14-0. Seedo High School scored 7 runs, including 2 home runs in the 4th inning. Among them, the home run of Furuya is the most amazing, especially compared to the previous Sawamura, who had 9 strikeouts, 2 hits, 1 homer, and 3 RBIs in the previous game. And Furuya was not to be outdone, with 3 strikeouts and a home run. Damn it, monster! Even if Sawamura was in the front and Furuya stood on the pitcher's mound, it immediately caused an uproar around him. His performance is really shocking. That's all. Sawamura is also a famous demon king in middle school, so it's only natural that he is strong. But what kind of monster is this Furuya? Where did he come from? How could it be so powerful? Returning to the dugout, Sawamura glanced at Furuya, who was running at the base, with a complicated look. The current Furuya is much stronger than the previous self at the same period. Could it be that under his own stimulation and guidance, Furuya evolved earlier? Sawamura thought suspiciously. But even so, Sawamura never thought of giving up his position on the pitcher mound. The mound is mine. 83. Chapter 83. The terrifying seed of the home run that Sawamura was thinking about still appeared, and it appeared twice. It's just a pity that these 2 home runs have nothing to do with him. One is from Miyuki, and the other is from Furuya. This pair of batteries who came off the bench not only dazzled the audience when they pitched, even their batting showed unparalleled success. Is there a way for a stronger first impression? Just look at Tampa's jealous narrow eyes. Even if Tampa knew that the current Furuya was still very immature, the presence of Furuya was still terrifying. 3 strikeouts, 1 home run. Originally, Tampa had always thought that Sawamura was the only one who could compete with him for the ace number. Kawakami himself doesn't have the spirit to be an ace, and while he has decent pitches, he doesn't have the fighting spirit he has to fight for the ace number. Furuya is very immature and cannot be used as a stable combat force. After all, there is only one formidable opponent like Sawamura, but now it seems so simple. Even if Furuya is not mature enough, and he still has some problems, his defense is even more immature like a beginner. But his fastball alone is enough to become a terrifying combat force. Fielding was originally a very important requirement for pitchers. With Furuya's defensive skills, he is completely unqualified to stand on Seedo's pitching mound. But after standing on the pitcher's mound, he stably pitched the ball and showed his strength. Even the previous hidden dangers vanished in front of his powerful pitching. The fielding is immature, so what? Furuya's pitching does not require any defense. All he needs to do is strike out all the batters. Strike, strike, strike batter out. Strike batter out, strike batter out. In the first half of the 5th inning, Narita Industrial attacked. Furuya Sakura gave full play to demonstrate the might of the monster and struck out the core of Narita, including Ito, again. The mercy rule was used for this game with a disparity in the score. West Tokyo Sita High School played against Chiba Prefecture Narita Industrial High School, and the final score was 14-0. 5 innings are played. The winner is West Tokyo Sita High School. Sita High School advanced to the top 4 in Kanto. This round of the Kanto tournament was different from the previous petty fights. There were not a few powerhouses who came to investigate. Although these famous schools had expected Seedo to defeat Narita Industrial before. But they would never have thought that the score would be so distinct and the strength gap between the 2 teams would be so large. When the game just started, Most of them came to see Sawamura. Seedo's lineup is at the top of the country. They knew this before. Even if these teams have the detailed information of all the batters in Seto High School. For them, there is no harm in treating Seto High School as their imaginary enemy. Seto High School, which was originally focused on explosive attack power, suddenly has a pitcher like Sawamura. Of course, they must focus on gathering intelligence. It's just a pity that the reporters and scouts who came with this purpose are doomed to be disappointed. In this game, Sawamura, who was heavily expected by them, did not get on the mound. Narita Industrial was defeated, a crushing defeat. Of course, they did not gain anything through this game. At least they have harvested the information of two people, and these two people will probably become the targets they need to be aware of in the future. The mysterious catcher that popped up out of nowhere, Takegawa Chrisu. Whether it's on defense or batting, Chris's performance can be described as perfect. Even if he immediately replaces Miyuki as the main catcher of Seto High School, it seems that there is nothing feared or lost. In this game, although he only played in 3 innings, he showed the ability to definitely serve as the main catcher of Seto High School. You must know that Miyuki is not an ordinary catcher. It does not mean that anyone who wants to replace him can replace him. He is a famous star catcher in the nation. In high school, who could be interviewed by reporters and published in magazines, which one did achieve the top level in the country in his own position. Although there is no record of Koshian as a reference, no one doubts Miyuki's strength. Even if this guy is only a second-year high school player, his strength is definitely one of the most powerful catchers in the entire high school. Chris can actually completely replace such a talented person, and his strength can be imagined. If Chris's appearance is to make other teams vigilant, then the appearance of another player is enough to make other famous teams have the urge to draw circles and curse Seto. This player is the backup pitcher, Furuya Satoru. For the first time on the board in a high school game, he scored 6 strikeouts in the face of the not-weak Narita core lineup, and it was 6 consecutive strikeouts. On top of that, he also hit a home run in batting, although he didn't have any fame and achievements in middle school before. But as soon as he got on the field, he had a jaw-dropping, astonishing performance. This is the debut game of the monster Furuya Satoru. 2 such tricky players appeared at once, and other strong teams could only be cautious. Of course, this isn't the scariest thing yet. It's not uncommon for 1 or 2 monsters to pop up on the baseball field. Other famous teams, although there will be a little feeling of envy, jealousy, and hatred, but they will not give up fighting for victory because of these 2 monsters. After all, baseball is a team and skill sport. The strength of individuals here can indeed create miracles to a certain extent and turn things around. But in the end, the game is not played by 1 or 2 people. If you really want to play it genuinely, you can also minimize the threat of 1 or 2 players. And the most terrifying thing about Seto is that everything they have is very strong. At the heart of a team's fielding is the pitcher. Talking about the pitcher of Seto High School first. The pitcher of Seto High School has been criticized all the time. But the truth is, both Tampa and Kawakami are very good pitchers. Although they may not be able to dominate the other teams, to a certain extent assist the team and defeat the opponent, it is still possible. Originally, these 2 could not be considered weak. But now with the flaming fastball pitcher Furuya Satoru and the all-around pitcher Sawamura Eijun, the entire pitching level of Seto High School is so rich that it makes people despair. In the position of the catcher, there are star players Miyuki and Chris who suddenly come out. Next is the lineup. Seto High School was originally nationally famous for its batting lineup. Sawamura, Chris, and Furuya Satoru, who joined later, all performed well in attacking. With their participation, the whole lineup of Seto High School has become more and more brilliant. Pitching, fielding, batting, pure strength on paper. Now this Seto High School is no longer strong, but terrifying. 84. Chapter 84. Golden Generation. The layman sees the fun, then sees the doorway. After the match between Seto High School and Narita Industrial High School, the ordinary popcorn enjoyers TM enjoyed it very much. Although the fierce and tyrannical confrontation makes people's blood bump. But like this, Seto High School fully displayed its crushing strength and domineering might, bullying another famous school at the Kanto tournament, and it was extremely enjoyable to watch. Especially on the eve of the summer competition, Seco High School showed such perfect and almost impeccable strength, which really made the players who supported Seco High School excited. The pitcher mound has a new string of monsters like Furuya Satoru and Sawamura Eijun, especially Sawamura Eijun. With the skills and experience he showed in middle school and after high school, he can still swing and pitch splendidly. Although he is only an ordinary freshman in high school, with the total enrollment is only 2 months. But the current Sawamura Eijun is undoubtedly an important fighting force of Seco High School. And not only in pitching, but even in batting, the current Sawamura is still an important fighting force at Seco High School. With his participation is a complete blessing for Seco High School. If you ask which famous high school has gained the most in recruiting new students this year, it is undoubtedly Seco. Seco High School not only recruited Sawamura, the most popular among all the freshmen, but also Sawamura, the most suitable newcomer for Seco. As it is known, the powerhouse Seco High School has not been able to enter Koshien for many years. It is because for so many years, Seco High School has not been able to stabilize their situation. This kind of thing is not uncommon in famous high schools, and the lack of good pitchers for the powerhouse is basically commonplace. But other giant teams just lack good pitchers. Not all of them. The situation at Seco High School was different. The situation at Seco High School was that there were no pitchers who could even be called national-level pitchers. To put it more bluntly, in recent years Seco High School, there's been no so-called real ace, the kind of pitcher who can lead the team forward in key situations. Even if some pitchers get the ace number, they're nothing more than the tall man among the hunchbacks, so you put them on the front. Some have the fighting spirit of the ace, but not the skills of the ace. Some have good pitching skills, but don't have the fighting spirit of an ace. This was the embarrassing situation in the last few years of Seco High School. Although Kataoka is a good coach, he is helpless about this kind of thing. It's different now. Sawamura Eijun, who has joined now, is only a freshman in the first year. But he certainly does not lack Ace's fighting spirit and skills. First of all, the experience, Sawamura Eijun as the team's acting coach, ace pitcher, and fourth batter. He has twice led his team to dominate the country twice in middle school. Whether his fighting spirit or skills, no one can comment on that. To see if a player has these things, see how he does it in the game. Eijun proved himself countless times with his practical actions during his middle school days. Facing the powerful teams in the nation, Sawamura was not afraid at all and led his team to defeat the powerful enemies again and again. How would such a person lack the fighting spirit and skills of an ace? At that time, Sawamura's pitching, whether it was applicable in high school, almost no one dared to be CONF. But even so, after graduating from middle school, Sawamura received invitations from almost all the famous schools in the nation, including Seco High School. And what they invite are all direct special acceptance, without going through the tests. All you have to do is come, and we'll take care of the rest. So sparing effort. What they saw was the strength and skills of Eijun. To put it more bluntly, it is the charisma of Sawamura Eijun. Sawamura has the charisma to lead people to victory. And that's exactly what an ace pitcher must have, and the young pitcher has it. It has attracted much attention by itself. In the previous game with Yokohama North High School, Sawamura showed his skills directly and brilliantly. The way he can handle the ball now and isn't bothered with the changes from softball in middle school to hardball in high school. Not only his skills can still be usable, but it is better this summer. Even if Sawamura Eijun couldn't with a number 1 of Seco High School, he is already the de facto ace of Seco High School. After the match between Seco High School and Yokohama North High School, some reporters directly used this phrase to describe the importance of Sawamura Eijun to Seco High School now. Sawamura is like giving help to Seco High School, whose pitchers are weak now. And after today's game, Furuya also emerged. Seco High School, which always had the problem of weak pitchers, suddenly became full of talents. Sawamura Eijun, Furuya Satoru, Tampa Koichiro, Kawakami Nori. The luxurious pitching squad is composed of these 4 people. Even if none of them can be called the number 1 in the nation, the pitching lineup definitely is the top level in the nation. Now, if someone says that the pitchers of Seco High School are not good enough, means they are asking for a beating. Of course, today's reporters don't know that Furuya, who performed extremely brilliantly in this match, is far less terrifying than they imagined. Even before mentioning the pitching lineup, the batters is also classy. The first batter, Kuramochi Yoichi, a super fast starter, and his batting skills are flexible. The second batter is Kaminato Ryosuke, who is good at making contact and has perfect batting skills. Any course can be hit. The third batter, Isashiki Jun. The unstoppable super fourth batter, Yuki Tetsuya. The line was promoted, and the terrifying fifth batter, Sawamura Eijun, who had a terrifyingly high hit rate. The sixth super heavyweight, Masuko Toru. The worst enemy during hard situations is the seventh batter, Miyuki Kinzuya. Steady and all-round eighth batter, Shiratsu Kenjiro. Such a lineup, even if you search all over the nation, there are very few that can be compared with it. In the previous two Kanto games, the two opponents of Sita High School, Yokohama North High School, and Narita Industrial High School, were both national-level teams. Even Yokohama is a relatively high-level team in the region. But even these two teams were suppressed and barely able to put up a fight when they faced Sita High School. After the second round of the Kanto tournament, almost all the related reports in the Kanto region had this issue. If it were the previous Sita High School, who ate dirt again and again in the Koshien qualifiers, it would be the fifth consecutive year that they have not entered Koshien. But now, some media reporters have bragged and directly praised Sita High School as the first candidate for the national hegemony of Koshien. Even if they didn't do that, Sita High School's display of power made other powerhouse tremble. Whether it is the media or the audience, after two consecutive rounds of the Kanto tournament, they all said very tacitly that this session of Sita High School is the golden generation of Sita. 85. Chapter 85. The Bat for Numbers begins. The golden generation of Sita. When this title came to the ears of Sita High School players, they couldn't believe it. They turned out to be the golden generation of the famous Sita. Sure enough, the mouth of the media is unreliable. They are the group of people who were once said to be Sita's no-harvest year, turned around mysteriously and became the so-called golden generation. Although they have no experience in Koshien, with the connections of Sita, there is no shortage of partners to practice matches. Among the teams selected by Sita as the target of practice competition, there are many top high schools in the nation. So no matter what the media says, Sita's players have a clear understanding of their own strength. Sita is strong. Even if there's a windfall like Sawamura and Furuya didn't join, Sita High School is also very strong. When they played against the powerhouses of the nation, they also won. To put it bluntly, Sita has national-level strength. Purely speaking of strength, Sita is absolutely qualified to play at Koshien. It's just that because of the instability of the ace number in the knockout competition, Sita has little hope of reaching the end. Although the players have been working hard to dominate the country, in their minds, they do not think that Sita is the strongest in the nation. This is not to grow the opponent's ambition and destroy one's own self-confidence. It is precisely because they have played against many top powerhouses in the nation that Sita is more aware of their strength. Among the top giants in the country, none of them are really inferior to Sita. They are all strong. Of course, Sita, who can compete with them and win or lose against each other, is also very strong. This is the original level of Sita before Sawamura joined. After Sawamura joined, everything changed. When there was an ace like Sawamura on the pitcher's mound, Sita, who had been pressured, started to soar. Even in the game against Yokohama North High School, the national Gant, Sita has an absolute advantage. To put it bluntly, no matter how many times you have played against Yokohama, unless their luck is really bad, or there is some major mistake in Sita, they will never lose to Yokohama North High School. This is the current Sita. It is precisely because Sita showed such strength and domineering that the media will unhesitant praise that it is now the golden generation of Sita. It's just that these third-year seniors who were once dubbed no harvest year are not very interested in this. Let the media say what it likes to say. They know what's going on with themselves, and that's fine. After the quarterfinals, Sita's players did not return to Sita as before. Instead, stay in a hotel near the stadium and wait for the semifinals to begin. With Sita's victory, Sida's opponent also came out. The opponent in the semifinals of Sida is Kakereru High School in Saitama Prefecture. Kakereru High School is a team with strong comprehensive strength, with a fixed ace, stable lineup, good base running, and tactical execution all over. Kakereru High School is pretty good. Perhaps because it was too balanced, Kakereru High School also lost its own style. But no one says this team doesn't seem to have that, because it's so strong that people have nothing to say. Generally speaking, really powerful teams have their own style. For example, the fielders of Yokohama North High School, the lineup of Sida High School, the ace of Inashiro Industrial High School, etc. In short, they all have a core, and they can determine their own style and formulate tactics around their core. But Kakereru High School is different. This team does not have a strongest point, and it does not have its own style and specific tactics. When the team is playing games, the most common method used is your strongest point to entangle with the opponent. Then target their weak spots and attack with full force. Their style is not uncommon, even in professional teams. In the profession, all of the 9 people who start the whole team are counted as the best, and there is no weak person at all. Most of the time, they use the same countermeasures as Kakereru High School. This style is very popular in the professional leagues, but it is not suitable for high school. Professional recruit players with good talents, and once they become pro, they have to go through professional training so they can keep up, and everyone's training time is also long. High schools are different. No matter how famous the high schools are, their players are students, and the most important task for students is to study. 5 hours of training a day is the limit, and apart from Sida, very few teams can achieve this amount of training. You want your player to be good at batting, good defense, good tactical execution, good pitching, good coordination. Human energy is limited, and when players spread their energy, they can indeed become very comprehensive. But with the same lack of focus, they're destined to have a hard time achieving the peak with their own hand. In summary, they play hard while other teams play less hard and more smart. Kakereru High School is very strong. There is no doubt about that. But also it is also a team without its own style, so not strong enough. It is not difficult for a truly powerful giant to defeat them. As a result, Kakereru High School became known as the touchstone. It is the dividing line between a strong national team and a giant team. If you can defeat Kakereru, then you're almost a national giant. If you can't beat them, or they're hard to beat, then you're a strong national team. The difference between national Gants and national powerhouses is a world of difference. Kakereru High School is in the middle of the country's top and Gant teams. Facing this opponent, Sida didn't seem to have much problem if they wanted to win. If it was before, Sida would still worry about whether Kakereru High School would target his own pitcher and bombard him. If that's the case, it's really not that easy for Sida to take down their opponent. But now, if Kakereru High School really did that, they would be killing themselves. Sawamura Eijun, Furuya Saru, Tampa Soichiro, and Kawakami Nori, the luxurious pitching squad. Who are they targeting? At this time, the players looked back and thought that it was really cool to have more of this kid Sawamura. With such a pitcher in charge, the score becomes extremely solid, and you don't have to worry about it anymore during the game, and they have to focus on scoring to overtake the opponent. It's a win. The players were very relaxed. So Coach Kataoka announced the lineup of tomorrow's game as if he was deliberately trying to make everyone on edge. The starting lineup was almost always the main force before, but Miyuki was replaced by Chris, who will continue to serve as Sida's starting catcher tomorrow. Then the pitchers, Tampa, Kawakami, and Sawamura, will have 3 innings per person. In the face of an opponent who did not pose much of a threat, Kataoka uncharacteristically adopted a follow-up pitcher, and it was a 3-person follow-up pitcher. Miyuki and Chris looked at each other, and their hearts were shocked. Here we go. Battle for the ace number. Although they knew that this would happen after Sawamura joined, they had long expected that such a day would come. But this day has come, and they don't know if it's too early or too late. The next day, in the semifinals of the Kanto tournament, the match between Sida High School and Kakereru High School officially started. 86. Chapter 86. Step-by-step Coach Kataoka really worked hard for the pitchers of Sida High School. For example, in the match with Kakereru High School, Coach Kataoka made a completely different arrangement for the four people. First and foremost is Furuya. When he played yesterday, he was a big hit, relying on that incomparably terrifying pitch. He won a reputation no less than Sawamura Eijun. Now, Furuya can be used as a restraining weapon, and there is no need to continue to showing him up. Instead, placing him in the dugout can cause greater psychological pressure on the opponent. When the two teams played, the opponent always thought that in the rest area of Seedoo, there was still a pitcher no less than Sawamura. With this feeling in their mind, they will always be pressured. Of course, this is only one aspect. On the other hand, Furuya has too many problems. The more opportunities he plays, the more such problems are exposed. He could still be used as a secret weapon, but once someone caught on his flaws, he is likely to become a living target. All things considered, putting Furuya in the dugout during the match is more cost-effective than letting him play. And for Furuya himself, it may not be a good thing for him to be used when he just entered high school. The environment that Furuya was in before made him not have much experience in baseball games at all. Taking this opportunity to earn him experience is a good thing for Seedoo High School and for him. So when Furuya stands on the pitching mound again, his strength will improve by leaps and bounds. Now, the audience's expectations no less than Sawamura for Furuya. The problem is that Furuya Satoru is not as strong as Sawamura Eijun. Expectation and strength are not proportional. It will turn into extremely heavy pressure. Can Furuya be able to withstand such pressure? Kataoka doesn't know. However, as a coach, it is very beneficial to temporarily hide Furuya now. Furuya aside, Kataoka also arranged the other three pitchers, which is also very interesting. Here, Tampa Koichiro is the starting pitcher, and he is also the current ace. There is no problem with letting him start. And Kawakami plays the role of a relay pitcher. Whether it is this session of the Kando tournament or the subsequent summer competition, Kawakami is an important relay force and can share the pressure for the ace pitcher. In the end, it was Sawamura Eijun. Right now, Kataoka no longer thought about how to hide the existence of Sawamura, since others have already discovered him. Hiding him again will arouse more suspicion from others. Rather than that, it would be better to put Sawamura out in an open and above-board manner. After all, Sawamura's pitching can only be experienced by standing in the strike zone. You can't feel that he is strong unless you stand there. Although Tampa Koichiro is the ace starter, with only 3 innings, Kataoka can replace him without hesitation. From this point of view, it is not difficult to see that in the mind of director Kataoka, Tampa is not an indispensable existence. The real ace will never walk off the field when the game is not really clear. For example, Sawamura, even if he is not on the mound, must be in a position where he can return to the mound at any time. A reporter once predicted that in the current Seedoo High School, even if Sawamura didn't wear the number 1 in the end due to various reasons, he was still the real ace of Seedoo High School. From the point of view that Kataoka will never change Sawamura, the reporter's prediction was true. Sawamura is already the de facto ace of Seedoo High School. It's just that it's hard to say whether he can take the number 1 and serve as a legitimate ace. After all, Tampa is a third-year ace pitcher anyway, and his one jersey has a special meaning for Seedoo's players. This is what Chris and Miyuki think of the battle for the ace, and it has officially started. Logically speaking, as long as Tampa doesn't make any big mistakes, he'll have no problem taking the ace number back. Tampa, who has been honed at Seedoo High School for more than 2 years, is more representative of Seedoo's style than Sawamura, who has just joined Seedoo. For Sawamura, although everyone has recognized his pitching, it is hard to say whether his pitching can represent Seedoo. The semifinals begin. Seedoo High School took the lead. Kuramochi, Kaminado, Tetsuya, and Sawamura, the 4 of them worked together in a row to help the team score 2 runs in the first inning, but it was only 2 runs. The second half of the inning, with the help of Chris, Tampa performed very well. Although he lost a single hit, he successfully got 3 outs and ended the first inning. Although Seedoo High School had 2 hits in the second inning, it failed to score. Kakarura High School showed good defense skills. In the second half of the second inning, when Seedoo High School was on the defense, Tampa dropped another hit, But under the strong guidance of Chris, he quickly regained his form and scored 3 outs. Tampa State is not very good today. If it wasn't for the help of Chris and the fielders, Tampa would have had a hard time not losing points. In the first half of the third inning, Seco High School attacked. 1 out, runner on the first base. Yuki Tetsuya was on the first base. It was Sawamura's turn to strike, and Sawamura was walked. After that, Seco was shut out. With 2 outs and someone at first and second base, it was Chris's turn to hit. Chris got a hit to help Seco score another run. The total score is 3 o'clock. In the second half of the third inning, Cocorero High School attacked. Tampa finally got his rhythm, with 1 strikeout and 2 shutouts, leaving Cocorero Middle School with 3 hits in 3 innings. In the final count, Tampa had 37 pitches, 2 hits, and 0 runs. When his state is not very good, this achievement can be considered as an account of the past. In the first half of the fourth inning, Seco High School attacked and failed to score. In the second half of the fourth inning, the pitcher of Seco High School was replaced by Kawakami. This is the first time Kawakami has partnered with Chris. Snap, strike. After Kawakami pitched the ball, he heard a good voice coming from Chris' gloves. It's a nice sound. It makes him feel like he's really pitching, and it works well. I'm in good shape today. With this feeling, Kawakami's pitching became more relaxed and comfortable. Not only did his control of the ball and the speed of the ball was good, but he even threw a few breaking balls very sharply. In the second half of the fourth inning, he first used the slider to strike out Cocorero's third batter, then was hit by the fourth batter. Next, rely on a fishing ball to make the fifth batter hit a slow fly-high ball. Then repeat the old trick for the sixth batter, allowing him to hit an infield grounder. 3 outs, offense and defense exchange. In the fourth inning, Seco still did not lose any points. In the first half of the fifth inning, Seco High School attacked, and it was Seco High's second batter turn to play. The Devil Brother Kaminato Ryosuke. 87. Chapter 87. I am really lucky. In the semifinals of the Kano tournament, Seco High School played against Cocorero High School. In the first half of the fifth inning, Seco High School attacked. Right now, it was the turn of the second batter, Kaminato Ryosuke, in Seco High School's lineup. Ping, foul, ping, foul. The ball, one after another, was hit and flew out of bounds. The catcher of Cocorero High School looked desperately at the batter, who was not very tall in the strike zone, and an endless chill rose on his back. As a national-level strong team, the players of Cocorero High School are very confident in the strength of their own ace. Especially as his catcher, he knows the pitcher's strength well. Although Cocorero High School's pitchers are not the kind of super strong pitchers that boost morale with just one pitch. But as the ace of the team, he is very strong no matter which aspect he is. For the simplest example, if he was to fight against batters from their own team, no one can easily hit all the balls flying out of bounds in a row. So far, they've been entangled for a full 13 balls. 2 strikes, 3 balls, and 8 are fouls. Just look at the ball count, and you can imagine the pitcher's depression without even having to see anything. Whoosh! The 14th ball came, but Ryosuke didn't swing. The catcher at Cocorero High School breathed a sigh of relief that it was finally over. He hasn't had a ball since the full count, and since Kaminato didn't swing this one, he's going to get a strikeout. Snap! The baseball burrowed into the catcher's open glove, and at the same time, an invisible punch hit him in the face. Ball 4. Walk to base. Since the full count, the catcher has not assigned a ball, but this does not mean that the pitcher can throw all the balls into the strike zone. Like now, after a few strikes, the pitcher's pitch was off the strike zone. Kaminato didn't let go of the pitcher's mistake, calmly watched the ball, and picked 4 balls to hit the base. I am really lucky. Throwing away the bat in his hand, Ryosuke ran unhurriedly towards first base. While running, he was still muttering that his luck was not bad. For the catcher of Cocorero High School, Ryosuke's words are like a punch in the face. What he said was definitely intentional. What good luck. You have carefully entangled with so many balls, can you still call it good luck? Kaminato Ryosuke, alone, entangled the pitcher with 14 balls. Now the game is in the 5th inning, and this is the beginning of the 5th inning. So far, they have not scored any outs. This also means that although the game is in the 5th inning, they still have 4 innings to continue pitching. And now, the number of pitches by the pitcher has passed 80. The game was barely halfway through, and the number of pitches was already close to 100. As to be imagined, their ace can't last until the end of this game. Seto High School, as a prestigious and famous school in the nation, Kakarero High School has studied the strengths of Seto High School. Judging from the results of their own research, Seto High School's strength is at most similar to theirs. Then, the outcome of the game depends on who has the better performance. Even after the super rookie Sawamura Eijun joined Seto High School, and the overall strength has improved, they may be a little stronger than them, but they should not be too strong. Before the game, they have been thinking so. Who knew when the real game starts, they will realize how naive they are. For innings, 3 o'clock. This is the gap between Kakarero High School and Seto High School right now. Right now, some people may want to say, but it is only 3 points. It is not that no one catches up in the second half of the game, and Kakarero High School does not need to be discouraged. In fact, the players of Kakarero High School thought so too. Just 3 points behind, they also think they should be able to catch up soon. But in fact, when they really fought against Seto, they knew how difficult it was to recover the score from Seto High School. Before you can get accustomed to the pitcher has already been replaced. Whether it is the first pitcher or the new pitcher, their performance is very dazzling and stable. The most terrifying thing is that Sawamura, who had been dreaded by them, has not yet climbed the pitching mound. It was not Sawamura who suppressed them so embarrassingly, but the old and original Seto High School. These players are really coached by Kataoka, and they're trained well. Looking at the powerful Seto, many reporters were amazed. Even the Demon King Sawamura and that rookie who could throw a flaming fastball didn't get on the pitching mound. Seto also showed a very extraordinary strength. Kaminato Ryosuke went to base with 4 balls, and Isashiki Jun walked him to second base. 1 out, runner at second base. This time it was the turn of the 4th batter, Yuki Tetsuya. In the face of the powerful 4th batter, Kakarero High School did want to walk him, but once they walked Yuki, they had to face Sawamura when there are runners at first and second base. They can't walk Sawamura too, can they? 4 or 5 walks in a row. This game, let alone the victory or defeat, their reputation will be lost. The most terrifying thing is that even if they loses their pride, Seto's attack will not stop. The 6th and 7th batters of Seto High School were also very difficult to deal with. In the case of full bases, it is not ideal to fight them to the death. At this time, the catcher of Kakarero High School had a deeper understanding of the horror of Seto High School's lineup. Horrifying. A careless move is likely to be the result of doom. At this time, the walk of Yuki Tetsuya will only make the path they can walk narrower and narrower. Instead of slowly pushing yourself into a corner, it's better to fight here. But in an instant, the catcher analyzed everything and decided to go head-to-head with the captain. Ping. The dreams are incomparably beautiful, but the reality is full of cruelty. Yuki Tetsuya hit a well-timed long hit, getting a double base, and sent Kaminato home. Seto scored the 4th run. After that, Sawamura hit a base. 1 out, runner at first and third base. Masuko hit a high ball to the outfield, and Tetsuya took the chance. When the ball fell into the outfielder's glove, he flew directly to home plate. Safe. Seto scored the 5th point. In the first half of the 5th inning, Seto High School's offense ended, extending the lead to 5 points. The bottom half of the 5th inning, Kakarero High School attack. Lower lineup batters got a hit. After hitting the hit, Kakarero High School did not rush ahead, but calmly walked the batter back. 5 innings are over, and the score is 5-1. Seto High School is in the lead by 4 points. 88. Chapter 88. The gap between Tampa and Sawamura in the first half of the 6th inning, Seto High School attacked. It was also in this inning that the ace of Kakarero High School, who had pitched more than 100 balls, was replaced by a second-year substitute. He was a great substitute. Although his pitching isn't fast, it has a lot of momentum. Seto, who had been underprepared, was shut out again and failed to conquer him. 3 outs, offense, and defense exchange. In the second half of the 6th inning, Kakarero High School attacked. Thanks to the superb pitching of the relief pitcher in the first half, each of Kakareru's batters felt like they were on a stimulant. Originally, they could not see hope, but now that they see hope, their fighting spirit will come out. 2 hits in a row, followed by a walk then a hit. 2 points were taken from Kawakami in one breath. Total score, 5-3. Fortunately, Kawakami did not lose these 2 runs in vain. With the cooperation of Chris, he also scored 2 outs. 2 outs, no one on base. Faced with such a situation, Kataoka hesitated for a while and let Kawakami continue to hold on. Ping! The white ball was hit and flew high. In left field, Sawamura opened his glove and caught the ball in his glove. Out. 3 outs, offense and defense exchange. In this game, Kawakami pitched 3 innings and dropped 5 hits and 2 runs. In Sidhu's rest area, Oda rubbed his hands nervously, not knowing how to speak to Kawakami. Although Kawakami has been performing well before, this time there is such a big blunder that he can't say anything. To be honest, Kawakami's pitching is still far from Tampa's. That's all it takes to deal with ordinary teams, and to deal with giants like Kakareru in the lane, he was clearly out of his reach. In the first year of high school, his progress is not slow. I believe that after a while, he will definitely show some performance. On the contrary, Kataoka did not criticize Kawakami's performance too harshly. It can be seen from Chris's performance that this itself is not all Kawakami's responsibility. The reason for such a result is largely because Kakareru's attack is indeed sharp. Compared to Sawamura and Tampa, the current Kawakami is still too immature. The reason why Kataoka is tolerant toward Kawakami is largely because he does not have the same expectations for Kawakami as Oda. In the summer competition, we still have to see the performances of Sawamura and Tampa. At this time, Kataoka had already made up his mind that this year's summer tournament would be fought with Sawamura and Tampa as the core. In the first half of the 7th inning, Seto High School attacked. Out. Despite the entanglement, Kawakami, Kuramochi, and Ryosuke were resolved one after another. In the face of such a powerful ball, the first time they met, they didn't have any good countermeasures. 3 outs, offense, and defense exchange. Sita's lineup was hit with 3 ups and 3 downs, and the upper lineup at that. In addition to the 2 people before on the bench, Situ has 5 consecutive players and has not hit the base. This guy's name is Oda. Sawamura frowned and looked at the Kakareru High School pitcher who was coming off the bench. If the next 2 innings, he can show the level just now. After today, this guy is probably going to become famous in the match, pushing Sidhu, who is in the limelight, to this extent. No matter what he was like before, he will definitely be a star in the future. Unless he is at his limits, then it can't be helped. Kakareru High School will definitely spare no effort to cultivate him. It's just that Sawamura didn't seem to have heard this name in his previous life. It is said that if Oda had been fighting on the pro baseball field as a player with such outstanding power, Sawamura should have heard of him. Did he retire or got injured? Sawamura thought suspiciously. In the second half of the 7th inning, Kakareru High School attacked. At this time, Situ pitcher Mound made a substitution. Sawamura was replaced from outfield to Mound, and then Sakai replaced Kawakami in left field. Sawamura is here. Sawamura. Suppress them. Big boss. Sawamura stood on the pitcher's mound, and the originally peaceful stand suddenly erupted. The members of the Demon King's Guard and the Brotherhood of Red Heart began to exert their voice. Today's game, because it is not a rest day, there are not many people coming. The 2 clubs added together was barely more than 1,000 people. Although there are not many people, they are united. Thousands of people roaring in unison is enough to startle people. Standing on the pitcher's mound again, Sawamura's whole spirit charged up immediately. He, who was originally guarding in left field, was just a dutiful fielder without much sense of presence. Sawamura in the strike zone is nothing but a brilliant batter. There is strength, but not charismatic enough. Sawamura on the pitcher's mound was different. Once he stepped on the pitcher's mound, Sawamura was different. He became energetic and striking. His presence on the mound gives off a feeling people can't ignore. Before 7 innings, Tampa and Kawakami had dropped a total of 6 hits. So when Sawamura came on the field, he happened to meet the lower lineup of Kakarero High School. Now the score is 5-3. The difference is not big. If you want to completely seal the victory, you must make the opponent feel desperate. Otherwise, the variables brought about by Oda will likely reverse the situation of the game. With this thought in his mind, Sawamura gave Chris a sign. Call for pitches to strike out all the batters, sure show. The catcher, Chris, could only smile bitterly. The opponent was Kakarero High School, and Sawamura wanted to strike out all the batters. It really suits his nature. Nodding slightly, Chris gave Sawamura a signal. First pitch, a strike from a low angle to the inside the corner. On the mound, Sawamura used his right glove to block his shoulder, and with a very smooth movement, he pitched the ball. On the strike zone, seeing Sawamura's already nervous Kakarero batter, his eyes suddenly widened. What's the matter with this form? Completely invisible, put the ball on the spot. Before he could figure it out, Sawamura's pitch came out. Whoosh! The little white ball, through the low corner of the inside corner of the strike belt, slid into Chris's open glove. Snap! Strike! Strike! Strike batter out! Because of Yokohama High School's good sportsmanship, the little secret of Sawamura's pitching form has not been leaked. For the first time, facing such a strange pitching form, they couldn't see the ball's release point, and the ball's speed appeared fast. The batters of Kakarero High School naturally have no way to accurately grasp the timing of the swing. This is not to mention that with Sawamura's ball control, the ball is either from the outside corner or the inside corner, and there is no sweet ball coming over at all. The two complemented each other, and the batter of Kakarero High School was even more dumbfounded. Strike! Strike! Strike batter out! With little effort, Sawamura had 3 strikeouts, giving the Kakarero High School batters 3 ups and 3 down. Looking at Sawamura on the pitcher's mound, in Sidhu's rest area, Kataoka's eyes also darkened. This is the biggest difference between Sawamura and Tampa, or the point where Tampa is not as good as Sawamura. 89. Chapter 89. Hakuryu High School. What Sawamura is really stronger than Tampa is not his incomparably sharp breaking balls. Pitchers like Sawamura who have a variety of breaking balls are, after all, a minority. The other pitchers didn't have Sawamura's talent, but they can also rely on a few breaking balls to navigate the major leagues. Why is that? Others also have their ways. There are not a few pitchers who rely on straight balls and several breaking balls to get surprising results. The reason why they can achieve this level is not all because of their breaking balls. It is precisely their sharp enough straight balls that can make the breaking balls exert their pressure. Like Sawamura now, he often strikes out. On the surface, it seems that Sawamura has a variety of weapons such as straight, moving, changeup, and magic balls. But that's not the case. The reason why Sawamura can really get so many strikeouts is not because he has so many changes in the ball course, but because Sawamura's straight is a sharp enough weapon in itself. In this life, Sawamura began to hone his ball speed and power in middle school, and the effect was very substantial. Combined with his precise ball control and new pitching form, his straight pitches are even sharper. Even if there are no other changes, Sawamura's own straight is a good enough weapon. On this basis, adding the changes of moving, splitter, and changeup balls can make Sawamura's straight even more powerful. Tampa's high drop curveball is definitely a rare variety of breaking ball. Even in Sawamura's arsenal, there are not many that can match it. But Sawamura's sharp breaking ball is much more difficult than Tampa's high drop. Why so? This is because Sawamura's straight is sharper than Tampa's. Tampa's ball control is not as good as Kawakami's, and breaking ball is not as much as Kawakami's. But he is obviously stronger than Kawakami, also because Tampa's straight balls are sharper and more powerful than Kawakami's. As for the ace number battle between Tampa and Sawamura, if the strength of the two is similar, in fact, Kataoka will not hesitate, then directly conclude Tampa's ace status. After all, with his 2-year experience of sharing wheel and woe with the 3rd grade, he can better inspire the fighting spirit of the 3rd grade. Moreover, the effect of Tampa and Chris's partnership is also very good. But the reality is not like that. Because of the difference in straight balls, experience, fielding, and pure pitching skills, Sawamura is obviously much stronger than Tampa. In this case, with Kataoka's character, how could he give Tampa the ace's back number with peace of mind? At least Tampa has to show a fighting spirit and strength enough to be the ace. Also, the reason why Furuya stands on the pitcher's mound, where people can't take their eyes off him, is because he has the best straight ball. Of course, if you really understand baseball, you'll know that Sawamura's straight fastball is not necessarily worse than Furuya's straight ball. 3 outs, offense, and defense exchange. Sawamura had 3 strikeouts with ease. In the first half of the 8th inning, Seco attacked. It was Isashiki's turn to attack. Isashiki Jun slammed the ball out with a scream, and the baseball flew in front of the pitcher. Oda stretched out his glove and caught the ball in his hand as if he had divine help. Out. 1 out, no one on base. 4th, first baseman Yuki Kun. Tetsuya versus Oda. This time, Kakarura High School did not escape but confronted them head-on. In fact, they have no way out. With Sawamura's pitching performance, if they want to turn things around, they must make strong moves to disrupt the rhythm of Seco. What's more amazing than shutting out the 4th batter and 5th batter? Only then will Kakarura High School have a chance. It's just a pity that simply throwing the ball with brute force is enough to deal with Ryosuke and Isashiki, and it is far from enough to deal with Yuki Tetsuya. Ping! He simply holds the bat and swings, smashing the ball into the outfield. 2 base hit. Tetsu went to second base in 1 breath. 1 out, runner at second base. After that, Sawamura came on stage. Hit a slow high fly in front of third base. Snap! Out. Sawamura was out. TSK. I hate this kind of pitching without any technical content. 2 outs, someone at second base. 6th, third baseman Masuko Kun. Ping. Simply competing with brute force. Oda was not Masuko's opponent after all. After entanglement with 2 pitch, he was hit with a home run. 2-run home run. The total score is 7-3. In the second half of the 8th inning, it was the turn of Kakarura High School's top lineup to play. Sawamura teamed up with Chris and unceremoniously struck out the 3 of them. Strike. Batter out. Strike. Batter out. Strike. Batter out. 3 outs, offense, and defense exchange. In the first half of the 9th inning, Seco High School attacked and failed to make a score. In the second half of the 9th inning, Kakarura High School attacked. Strike. 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 Batter out. Strike. Batter out. Strike. Batter out. Sawamura seemed to want to use all the energy he was holding in his heart. When he pitched the ball, he didn't hold back at all, causing countless spectators in the auditorium to cheer. In the semifinals of the Kanto tournament, Seco High School played against Kakarura High School. In the end, Seco High School won 7-3 and got a place in the final, in the stands. A team collectively stood up. They looked at the excited and cheering Seco people with sharp eyes. Seco High School, Sawamura Eijun. I'm waiting for you. In the team, one of them muttered to himself. Let's go, Mima. A young coach said with a stopwatch in his hand. The boy left with the team. Who are they? Kuramochi's innately sensitive premonition of danger caught the unkind gaze from afar. Miyuki glanced in the direction he pointed. It's at Kuri and our opponent for the next game. In this session of the Kanto tournament, Seco High School was lucky and never met a real top national tyrant. But the Hakuryu are different. They are all the way by destroying everything in their path. In the final of the Kanto tournament, West Tokyo Seto High School against Gunma Prefecture Hakuryu High School. Game time is tomorrow, Saturday. We are already here. No matter who is blocking our path, we must win. Sawamura looked at the Hakuryu who was far away and said firmly. This was heard by Kataoka. He glanced at Sawamura but didn't say anything more. Thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for the opportunity. The 2 sides saluted each other, and everyone left and returned to the hotel where they stayed. As soon as he walked out of the stadium, a group of reporters surrounded them. Manager Oda led several members of the coaching staff and stopped all the reporters. I'm sorry, everyone. No comment, no comment. We'll talk about it after the finals. Before the final, we do not give any interviews. The attitude of Kataoka and Seco is still the same. 90, Chapter 90, The Power of the Demon King. The next day, Saturday, was sunny. The spring breeze blowing on people's faces makes people feel relaxed and happy. The weather in May is said to be spring, but it is not far from the beginning of summer. It is the time when everything on the earth recovers. In the baseball stadium, which accommodates 20,000 spectators, the atmosphere is very lively. Crowds of people, gongs and drums, and popcorn. Some talking, some cheering. It's a very lively atmosphere. This time, Seidu and Hakuryu are both away and are generally difficult to bring cheerleaders and bands. Unless it is a grand event like Koshien, it is organized by the school and not just counted as a club activity. So at the beginning of the Kando tournament, Seidu team members followed the team to cheer, except for the small numbers of the second string and the third string, but no one else followed. The final was just in time for Saturday, and many supporters of the teams from the two schools volunteer to cheer, only if they have time, and also this is the Kando tournament, second only to Koshien. The honor of the Kando champion is still very much valued by everyone. It's okay to stay at home anyway, and it's also nice to see the baseball team reach the top. With this idea in mind, Seidu and Hakuryu have many students to cheer on the players. Cheerleaders and band clubs have the same mentality. They directly act as club activities. To support them, both schools also gave them activity funds. What is a famous high school? The most important thing is a good character, not bad for money. Before the game started, the two cheerleaders had already begun to compete. They danced gracefully to the sound of drums and sent blessings. In contrast, Seidu was better than the others in terms of the size of the cheerleaders and the momentum. It's just that Hakuryu's cheerleading team made a big flag, which fluttered in the wind and looked imposing. It made the Seidu cheerleaders, who had an advantage, seem a little weak. I'm furious. Kusaki Sakurako is secretly annoyed. Why didn't she think of it? The cheerleaders can't always dance, but the flag can always be held. The cheerleaders who have just started Seidu can also rely on the number of people and exquisite dance moves to equalize with each other. After the game starts, it's normal for a baseball game to last 2 or 3 hours. The beauties of the cheerleaders can't dance for 2 or 3 hours, can they? Ikari-chan quietly pulled Sakurako, pointed at a group of people who didn't seem to be very old, and asked, "Why are there so many young people?" Sakurako looked along Ikari's fingers, just in time to see a black mass of human heads. The exact number is not easy to guess, but it is different from the fans who are sitting scattered around and are mainly adults. They were obviously organized, and many of them were still wearing uniforms. And the leader in the first row was a boy who looked 14 or 15 years old. This young man looks fair and clean and belongs to the standard Bishinen. Sakurako, who had known Sawamura before, instantly recognized the identity of the other party. The Demon King's Guard and their leader Miyamoto. It's okay not to look at it, but after one glance, Kusaki Sakurako became even more angry. She had approached Sawamura before, hoping to integrate them into this huge cheerleading team. Thousands of people cheering is different from the momentum of the dozen or so of them on their own. They're in the middle of the stands, surrounded by the band, and surrounded by fans like this. Whether it is on-site effects or camera shooting, it is definitely the most beautiful view. In this way, it is not only good for them, but also for Sawamura. I believe his fame will become a celebrity because of this incident. Personally, have a group of fan supporters, and that's fine. Among the high school star players, many of them have their own fans. Their number may not be as large as Sawamura's, but their passion is definitely not inferior. But a fan group with its own band and cheerleaders has never appeared. Once this is broadcasted, it is not a win-win. It's a pity that Guy Sawamura has nothing but baseball in his mind and wasting her kindness. Just when Sakurako was annoyed, another group of people rushed in. Most of these people are adults, mixed with a few young people and beautiful women. There are not many people, just a few hundred people. But it seems that these people are more eye-catching than the large number of Demon King's guards. Their leaders had a huge drum and knew from where they got it. The drum was so big that people could sleep on it as a small bed. The drum is at the forefront, and a dozen people are carrying it. After that, there was a huge banner, which was twice as big as that of the Hakuryu. After unfolding, a line of large characters is written on it. Brotherhood of Red Heart. always support the brothers. Below the big characters is a cartoon portrait of Sawamura and a line of small gold characters. Sawamura Eijun. Oh my, it's so good. Kusaki Sakurako's pretty little pupils almost popped out. It's not that she doesn't know that these two fan clubs of Sawamura are extremely capable of pushing their weight. In Sawamura's era of middle school, they did all kinds of work. Sawamura's skills and ability to make miracles won him the reputation of the Demon King, although his own skills are indeed terrifying. But the contributions of his two groups of fans are absolutely indispensable. Every time the camera takes pictures, there's a sense of sight of the superstar and his fans. Crazy. Crazy. Yuki's nicknames are Ogoi-chan, Loud-chan, and Akari-chan, Mad-chan. For a girl to get such nicknames, it's not hard to see how carefree and informal she is. But the first time she saw what happened between the Brotherhood of Red Heart and the Demon King's Guard, she was still shocked. It's possible to do things here and there, it's crazy. Compared with them, Yuki felt that it was too wrong to be called a lunatic. The things she used to be called crazy now look like a child playing in a house. Miyamoto also saw the battle between him and Obayashi and Kobayashi. To be honest, he was also shocked. Although the two sides made an appointment, let's cheer for Sawamura together. But exactly how to do it, no one has revealed to anyone. Looking at the display of the Brotherhood of Red Heart now, Miyamoto is really dumbfounded. It's so frustrating. Obayashi and Kobayashi, two otaku. One writes and one draws manga. Does it make that much money? With a dissatisfied rebuke in his mind, Miyamoto also signaled his friends to take action. So, a very miraculous scene appeared. The little players of the Demon King's Imperial Guard began to change their clothes and wear hats. When they finished changing their clothes, the others subconsciously swallowed their saliva. A total of 3,000 people used themselves as the background, splicing different colors. Two large characters were written in big red font. Demon King. The white background and the red characters follow the camera at this moment and spread all over Kanto. On the platforms of social media, everyone who saw this scene was shocked. Kneel before the power of the Demon King. 91. Chapter 91. Their Dreams. After changing equipment from the locker room, Seedo's players pushed open the door and entered the stadium. As soon as they entered the stadium, fans and supporters who supported Seedo began to open their mouths to cheer on their favorite players. Here, Sawamura, Tetsu, and Miyuki were called the loudest. Miyuki is now a star player in Seedo, an important person in offense and defense. Yuki Tetsuya is the captain, a key figure in the field and the center of attack as Seedo's fourth batter. The two of them are relatively famous in Seedo, and their popularity is a matter of course. It is said that Sawamura has just joined the team not long ago. Seedo's supporters shouldn't be so quick to put Sawamura on the same level as Miyuki and Yuki. But there is no way. Sawamura's reputation is already great, and he has shown good strength when he enters the Seedo. The most important point, Sawamura also makes up for the weakness on Seedo's pitcher mound. This made all supporters of Seedo quickly accept the existence of Sawamura. Seedo supporters who are eager for Koshien to hope to have a reliable ace pitcher. Sawamura made up for their desire in an all-round way. So those who supported Seedo were very welcoming to Sawamura Eijun. Now Sawamura's status seems to be on par with Tetsuya and Miyuki. After the three, Kaminado, Ryosuke, Isashiki Jun, and Masuko Toru, these third-grade players began to receive shout-out support. There are thousands of people and thousands of tastes, and there are people who like what kind of players. It's just that compared to the voices of support obtained by Yuki, Miyuki, Sawamura, and others, the voices of support are much smaller. Next, as usual, it is the turn of Kuramochi. Before anyone who liked Kuramochi could speak, a cheering sound like a small earthquake sounded. Sawamura, Sawamura, Demon King, Demon King. The Brotherhood of Red Heart and the Demon King's guards began to act. They were like a huge torrent, and the other scattered cheers were completely wiped out. Kuramochi, who raised his hand and waited to greet his fans, immediately changed his face. He stared fiercely at Sawamura and asked, "You did it on purpose. This is not the first time, There was another time before when those people were either a little early or a little behind, and they were cheering him on. The two brainless fandoms of Sawamura acted suddenly. Sawamura looked innocent. Does he have time to do such a boring thing? Senpai, you have wronged me. In fact, this has something to do with Sawamura. Sawamura and Kuramochi understood the friendship built during fights. Sawamura understood, Kuramochi understood, and so did the surrounding teammates. Dormitory number 5 has always had such a tradition of like and hate. Even Masuko would sometimes attack Sawamura because he stole his pudding jelly. They're used to fighting together, so they don't take it seriously. Fans of Sawamura don't know. Every time they watched Kuramochi treat Sawamura viciously, they automatically made up a lot of pictures of evil seniors bullying their juniors. So annoying, thinking that the little demon king of their family is polite and doesn't offend the seniors still bully him even more. Isn't that it? At that time, the fans discussed to teach Kuramochi a lesson. This is easy to say, but difficult to do. No matter what, Kuramochi and Sawamura were teammates on the same team, so they couldn't cheer Kuramochi when they were cheering. Isn't that helping the enemy fight against his family, Sawamura? This kid Miyamoto is also a devil. He quickly thought of another countermeasure. He found that Kuramochi enjoyed the fans cheering him on, and this was a great opportunity. So he planned that when the audience cheered Kuramochi, they would cheer for Sawamura together. Among Seedo's supporters, there were only a dozen or so who could come from Tokyo to support Kuramochi. Even in Tokyo, this number is not many, dozens of them at most. How could their momentum be an opponent of the 3,000 or 4,000 Demon King's guards? That's why the current situation happened. When it was time to refuel Kuramochi, there was a roar around him. When they're done roaring, you won't be able to cheer up Kuramochi anymore. This is not the first time. After the last time, Kuramochi took the opportunity to have a good exchange with Sawamura about the close friendship between the senior and the junior. Unexpectedly, Sawamura's fans did not stop, and they even intensified. Kuramochi was immediately angry. Sawamura is really wronged, and it has nothing to do with him. If it hadn't been beaten, he would have tapped Kuramochi's head and asked, "Have your brain grown?" Of course, this can only be a good wish, whether it was in the past life or the present. Sawamura was far from Kuramochi in terms of combat effectiveness in one-on-one fights. "You better be careful with me." Kuramochi glared at Sawamura. Sawamura acted like a junior, again and again, very obedient. Such a cute junior. On the other side of the field, people from Hakuryu High School also came out. Looking up, 2 big flags fluttered in the wind. The small one is theirs, and the big one is the Brotherhood of Red Heart. This is nothing, considering the size of the cheerleading team. Seido and Hakuryu are not the most luxurious among the top giants in the nation. They don't care too much about who is stronger than the other. But what the hell are those occupying the third stand? From a distance, there are 2 big characters. Demon King. Mima frowned and looked serious. I really miss this feeling. When he was in middle school, he met Sawamura's fans and various works. The methods they come up with are always bizarre. But no matter how strange it is not as loud as now. That's all it takes to get uniform clothes. Who has the money to buy these clothes? But how did you draw the line uniformly? How much terrifying organizational power is required to do this? In fact, Mima thinks too much. It's not as difficult as he thought. Just use a computer to make a background in advance, and then separate the required parts. The hardest thing about this is not doing, but people. You'd be hard-pressed to find 3,000 idlers to do that in uniform. That is the Demon King's guards, mainly students. This amazing thing can only be done on a rest day. At this time, Kuramochi also saw it. His jealous eyes are about to flow out. Damn it, did you spend money? Sawamura rolled his eyes at him. If these students were part-time, they will cost at least 1,000 yen per hour. There are thousands of people. How can I be so stupid? If you really want to spend money to organize such a fight, it will cost millions to say the least. Sawamura could only do this unless he was mentally ill. This Kuramochi also knows these people must come voluntarily, but he just didn't want to believe it. Usually, as a dormitory roommate, he spent a lot of time with Sawamura. How did he not know what was so special about Sawamura? He couldn't figure out the charm of Sawamura. Without real experience, Sawamura led Akagi, a team that didn't exist, to win the national hegemony. Just listening to the words that Sawamura won the national hegemony twice, it is hard to understand that Sawamura did a great thing in middle school. Then it is even more impossible for him to understand the true thoughts of the fans of the Brotherhood of Red Heart and the Demon Kingsguard. Sawamura has their dreams. 92, Chapter 92, Doomed to Miss. The finals of the Kanto tournament, West Tokyo's Seto High School's play against Gunma's Hakuryu High School, officially begins. Following a sentence from the commentator, after the players on both sides saluted each other, they took their places and prepared for the game. The first to attack in this game was Hakuryu, and Seto was responsible for the defense. Regarding the starter of this game, Kataoka has also had some deliberations. Needless to say, Kawakami Nori is equivalent to being ranked outside the ace competition. Furuya Satoru is a secret weapon waiting to be developed. These two people's skills are not enough for Kataoka to pin the team's hopes on them. They won't be given a chance to play in the Kanto final. Currently, Sawamura and Tampa are the only ones who can really compete for the ace number. So in the final, Kataoka still made up his mind to let both of them play to feel the atmosphere of playing against the top giants in the nation. The starter is Tampa, and Sawamura will be in the left field and be ready. In addition to the pitchers' rivalry, the Seto catchers' rivalry is now getting more and more intense. The battle for the catcher position is even more brutal than the battle for the pitcher. In a game, exhaustion of the pitcher is almost commonplace. Especially in the hot summer competition, any team targeting Koshien cannot survive with just one pitcher. The physical exertion of the pitcher is already high, the schedule is dense, and the game of baseball is very tormenting. On the field of Koshien, there are not a few pitchers who ruin their careers because of overpitching. This is also one of Koshien's dark side. In fact, it is more than Koshien. Everything has positive and negative sides. In general, Koshien still pinned the dreams of young people and caused a social sensation. Its meaning is so far-reaching that words are indescribable. You can't stop eating because of choking. And after entering the new century, most of the giant teams in Koshien have adopted a multi-pitcher rotation system and will not put all the burden on the ace alone. Unless it's a dark horse team like that with insufficient foundation, and there is no replacement at all, otherwise the ace will not always be on the mound. For example, like Seto now, keeping Sawamura on the mound is the safest for the team to win or lose. But Kataoka wouldn't do that, even if it would be most beneficial for Seto to do so. He will still focus on Tampa and Sawamura as the core for the coming summer games. The most important purpose of this is to protect Sawamura. People's hearts are changed by other people's hearts. After being reborn, Sawamura never thought about any other school in the past. Why? It is because he has met the best coach, the best teammates, and the best education in Seto. Of course, it didn't mean that other schools were bad, but Sawamura didn't know much about those schools. And even if other schools were the same as Seto in all aspects, Sawamura would still choose Seto. After all, this is where his heart is. All in all, in a new era of competitions, the relay pitchers are a very normal thing, and it can even be said to be common sense. Basically, a strong school with enough weight will do this. But who have you heard or seen? That team will trade their main catcher. Once the main catcher is identified, it is very difficult to replace. The catcher is also the coach on the field, and it is conceivable how many responsibilities he has. No matter how simple Kataoka's thoughts are, or how close Chris and Miyuki are in strength. In the end, Seto needs to choose a catcher. The semi-final was handed over to Chris, and the final was handed over to Miyuki. Although Chris came back strong, and his performance in all aspects was not inferior to Miyuki's. But in Kataoka's mind, at least now, Miyuki is still the team's main catcher. Otherwise, Kataoka would not have handed over the most crucial game of the Kanto tournament to him. In the first half of the game, Hakuryu High School attacked. First batter, shortstop, Shindo Koen. The grade of the members of the Hakuryu are very neat, with 9 players, 5 are third graders, and 4 are second graders. Among them, Shindo is one of 5 third graders. The catcher, Miyuki, glanced at Shindo, and all the information about Shindo flashed in his mind. Almost all of Hakuryu's members are very fast, and their mobility is second to none in the nation. But even in such a team, Shindo's speed is one of the best. Watching Hakuryu's game video, Miyuki's deepest understanding is that once someone from Hakuryu High School hits the base, the game will become very troublesome. Considering the speed of Shindo, he didn't even want to encounter such a situation at the beginning of the game. So let's go all out on the first ball, Tampa's Senpai. The first ball, high drop curveball. Seeing the sign from Miyuki, Tampa subconsciously frowned. Start with the best breaking ball. Even if it was this game, the coach arranged for Sawamura to relay. But in Tampa's mind, of course, he still hoped that he could pitch the whole game. If the goal is to pitch the whole field, it is best to use only straight balls in the first inning. After all, Tampa is not Sawamura, and he doesn't hold as many breaking ball weapons as Sawamura does. If you use your own winning shot frequently from the beginning, in the second half of the game, Tampa's prize pitch will definitely be targeted by the opponent. At that time, he is likely to be surrounded by the opponent. Even you, don't believe I can finish it? Tampa gave Miyuki a deep look, but didn't say anything. Instead, he nodded slightly, agreeing with Miyuki's ball matching plan. Whoosh! The small white ball flew from Tampa's hand to Miyuki's glove. On the strike zone, Shindo never left the flying baseball. Finally, the ball came, and the speed was so fast. As the current ace pitcher of Seco High School, Tampa is remarkable in terms of ball speed and power. His pitching is amazing, but just this ball cannot make the batter of the Hakuryu Academy flinch. Although the speed of the ball is not slow, in Shindo's view, it is not so fast that he can't hit it. The moment he saw Tampa throw the ball, he had a hunch that he could hit the ball and hit it beautifully. Coming. It's now. The small white ball approached his hand and was about to pass over the top of the plate and into Miyuki's open glove. At this critical moment, Shindo in the strike zone decisively swung the bat in his hand out. The bat whizzed by, and the wind followed. Although it has always been said that he is a speed-type player, this does not mean that the swing of Shindo will not work. In fact, his striking power is also very eye-catching. It's just that such an excellent swing is doomed to miss. Before the baseball got close to the batter, it suddenly and rapidly fell. 93. Chapter 93. Genius Miyuki, seeing the baseball fall, Shindo's pupils suddenly contracted. Those who had collected detailed information on Seto before, of course, knew about Tampa's tiebreaker. Because Tampa is tall, the curveball thrown from that height falls too big, and also moves to the outside corner, the trajectory of the entire ball changes, which is amazing. Simply speaking of breaking balls level, Tampa's high drop curve is definitely a rare sharp weapon. This is also the reason why Tampa could be the ace of Seto after the seniors graduated. Tampa's high drop curveball, as long as the pitch is good, even if you search the whole nation, there are not many who can hit it. These data were collected by them before. And this kind of ball is even more scary if you look at it from the strike zone. When he saw the baseball next to him with his own eyes, it was as if it suddenly paused and fell rapidly. That feeling is similar to watching a stunt. Such a high drop ball is no longer a straight line in the process of entering the strike zone. If you aim at the line to contact, it is impossible to hit the ball. The angle at which the ball falls and the angle at which you swing the bat is the point of intersection. You have to accurately calculate this point, and it is possible to hit Tampa's curveball. What a terrifying break. The bat in his hand was clenched tightly, and Shindo's eyes became gleaming. This time, he will swing the bat, although conceded a strike, but not necessarily a bad thing. If the opponent thought he was aiming at Tampa's curveball, that would be perfect. Thinking about it, Shindo straightened his back and looked sharply at Tampa on the pitcher's mound. In the catcher's position, Miyuki's eyes never left Shindo, and he observed his every move very carefully. He is preparing to swing. Are you aiming for curveball? He didn't step back in the slightest, and there was no shock on his face. It seemed that everything was as he expected. In this case, the next pitch will be on the pitcher's mound. Seeing Miyuki's sign, Tampa frowned. But after all, he didn't say anything. Although he prefers to partner with Chris, he also recognizes Miyuki highly. In terms of ball distribution, Miyuki is also a genius. Since he asked him to pitch this ball, he must have a plan. However, what a nasty bastard. It's not without reason that Tampa doesn't like Miyuki. This guy and Furuya, especially when he is partnering with Sawamura, will talk to them and seek their opinions. On the contrary, with his senior, he was not very respectful and gave orders annoyingly. At this point, even Kuramochi saw it. Miyuki's attitude towards Tampa is too direct. Although Sidhu is a place where strength is respected, you are always a kohai, so be polite to your senpais. Isn't it natural? But Miyuki was not. When he was partnering with Tampa, he was extremely tough. In order to better guide the pitcher's state, I will do anything. This is Miyuki's motto. His attitude towards Tampa is precisely because he thinks it can better guide Tampa's pitching. As for whether Tampa hated him after he did this, it was not within Miyuki's consideration. Like now, he's asking Tampa for an inside corner strike. After seeing the path of the ball, Shindo did not swing. Snap. Strike. The count is 2 strike and no balls. On the strike zone, Shindo's calm face was gone and instead revealed a bit of a hideous look. Just now, it turned out to be an ordinary straight. He also thought that Miyuki would give Tampa another high drop curve. After all, judging from the trajectory of the high drop curve, throwing for such a corner has the highest probability of a strike. Otherwise, the outside corner or low angle, that course is likely to become a ball. From the corner of his eyes, Shindo glanced at Miyuki, who was in the position of the catcher, and Miyuki had a harmless smile on his face. Did he see through my plan? Or that he himself intends to use a straight? Shindo didn't understand, but now he is in a bad position. He has been chased by 2 strikes, and he can only choose one kind of ball to bet on. So the next ball, is it a straight ball or a high drop curveball? Just when he hesitated, Tampa's third pitch came. Whoosh, the ball is in the middle. Swing. Seeing the path of the ball, Shindo wanted to swing, but in the end, his tenacious will restrain him. At this time, how could Tampa and Miyuki use this pitch? It must be a high drop curveball. This one should be out of the zone. Will definitely be a ball. Resisting the urge to swing the bat, Shindo watched the ball slip into Miyuki's open glove. Snap. Strike. The ball is in the middle. A straight ball in the center, aiming at the straight ball and swinging the bat, but was unable to complete his swing. Batter out. And it was a strikeout looking. In the end, Shindo didn't understand his strategy, and something went wrong. The dugout of the Hakuryu. He was hesitating to swing. Mima said indifferently, since Senpai was aiming for the straight ball, no matter what ball he throws, he will just aim at the straight ball and swing the bat. Being timid like that gives the opponent a chance. Being told that by his junior, Shindo was speechless. After coming down, he thought that what Mima said was not unreasonable. But when he was standing in the strike zone, he clearly felt that Tampa's next throws should be all high drop pitches. In the stands, a professional scout looked at Miyuki in amazement. Genius, genius. Sensei, do you mean the pitcher? The professional scout glanced at his assistant and explained, Of course not. I'm talking about the catcher. After his first pitch, he saw through the course that the Hakuryu wanted to aim at. Then he formulated a very bold strategy, and this was the result at hand. Different from the perspective of a bystander, the scout couldn't help but praise Miyuki. 1 out, no one on base. Second batter, third baseman Hoshino-kun. This time, the batter stood in the strike zone, looking full of fighting spirit. Miyuki glanced at his stance and position, then decisively gave Tampa a sign. The first ball, high drop curveball. Strike. For 2 consecutive high drop curve, the batter all missed the swing, now being chased by 2 strikes. Then the third ball, a straight ball, is in the middle. Hoshino's eyelids kept twitching, but already being chased, he had no choice but to swing the bat. The bat swung out, the baseball dropped, and the 2 staggered, and no one touched the other. Snap. Strike. Batter out. 3 consecutive high drop curves. Hoshino looked back at Miyuki in disbelief. He really didn't understand why this guy was so bold. Even Tampa can't keep throwing a curveball with such a high drop, right? Isn't he afraid to abolish his winning shot? Of course, Miyuki is not afraid. Because of this game, Tampa's mission was not to complete the game. Instead of maintaining physical strength at the rhythm of pitching, It is better to
No more novels? Take part in the voting. The most requested novels and those with the most likes will be chosen for publication on euroaudiobooks.com. There, I can upload as much as I want without the risk of receiving a strike. Our 18 novels and other content that exceed what is morally acceptable are only published on Patreon or the free novels page. Remember, the site is funded by donations on Ko-fi and Patreon memberships.